Chapter 3340. Chuli pondered. Brother Zhou, once this bell is rung, the hill master will come out of isolation? Zhou Jie nodded. Chuli asked, then can I ask, where is the hill master in isolation? Zhou Jie shook his head. Chuli smiled. Not in this world. Zhou Jie looked at him in surprise. Why do you think so? I think this bell is mysterious. I'm afraid it's not an ordinary item. Chuli looked at the bronze bell. Could it be an item from Outland? You're the one who mastered the spirit serpent technique. Zhou Jie nodded. I might as well tell you, this bell is indeed an item from Outland. Chuli asked, the hill master can hear me when I ring this bell? Of course, Zhou Jie nodded. Chuli smiled. No matter where the hill master is, as long as you ring this bell, he can hear you, even from Outland, right? It seems like you know quite a lot. Zhou Jie hesitated for a moment, then slowly nodded. The hill master doesn't usually stay in this world. He's in isolation in Outland. Only this bell can let the hill master hear us. Without this bell, even if we scream, the hill master won't hear us. Chuli exclaimed, it's really extraordinary. Zhou Jie said, I heard this bell is not an ordinary item in Outland. It's very rare. All right, you should ring it. Chuli nodded. If that's the case, then I'll disturb the hill master. He flicked his finger. A force hit the bronze bell, but it was silent. No sound was heard. Zhou Jie shook his head. You need to use all your strength and unleash all the inner energy of the spirit serpent technique to ring it. Chuli activated the 9th level of the spirit serpent technique. His rich inner energy rolled. Although it was not as strong as the inner energy cultivated by the supreme diamond scripture, it was much purer than before. He lightly hit the bronze bell with his finger. Ding, a clear sound was heard, like hitting a small porcelain cup. The sound was soft and crisp, completely different from the sound of the bronze bell. Chuli looked at Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie nodded. The hill master should already know. Chuli said, the hill master is in isolation in Outland. Is your master also in Outland? I don't know. Zhou Jie shook his head. Chuli smiled. Zhou Jie said, master is elusive. I really don't know where he is. Could it be that he entered the 100,000 hills? Chuli asked. Zhou Jie was startled and shook his head. The 100,000 mountains are too dangerous. Even master doesn't dare to enter. That is the land of spirit beasts. Humans are not allowed to enter, or else they will die. Chuli smiled. Can't the hill master enter as well? You can't go in. Zhou Jie shook his head. Even Empyrean gods won't be able to survive in there. Chuli nodded thoughtfully. He had originally guessed that the mountain chieftain and her disciple were in closed-door cultivation in the 100,000 mountains, but now he realized that he was wrong. Moreover, the 100,000 mountains were indeed dangerous, and they didn't dare to enter. It was indeed rare for him to be able to freely enter and leave the Spirit Crane's peak. As the two of them spoke, a dragon's roar resounded throughout Immortal Attraction Mountain. Chuli felt his blood and chi fluctuating. He felt uncomfortable all over and wanted to vomit. He hurriedly activated Mahavairocana's immobility scripture to suppress it. When he looked again, Zhou Jie was already lying on the ground, his face red as if he was drunk. A giant dragon suddenly emerged from the clouds. It was about 100 meters long, huge and slender. Its scales shone with golden light, as if it had stolen the sun's light. The dragon's long beard fluttered in the wind, and its eyes were cold and emotionless. It drifted down from the clouds leisurely. It was Chuli's first time seeing a real dragon. Previously, he had only seen it in paintings. Now that he thought about it, the paintings only had the form but not the spirit. The dragon's eyes were as sharp as lightning, and its body emitted a majestic dragon force, as if it could destroy the world. If Chuli's soul was not inhumanly strong, and he had Mahavairocana's immobility scripture to calm his mind, he would have lost his mind and be at a loss when he saw this dragon. Zhou Jie's expression was proof. Zhou Jie was staring blankly at the sky. His body was trembling, and his inner energy was in chaos, as if he was possessed. This dragon came to them and mastered the spirit serpent technique. Then it could become an inner mountain disciple and cultivate the dragon taming technique, Zhou Dunley said slowly. Chu smiled at him. Zhou Jie smiled. So, junior brother Chu is an Intermountain disciple? But, Zhou dumbly muttered and looked at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled without saying a word. Chapter 33:41. Zhou dumbly sighed. There is indeed such a rule, but Goddess Attraction Mountain has always had only one disciple. I never expected there would be a second disciple. This is truly delightful. He was hesitant. Logically, it was a good thing for Goddess Attraction Mountain to have a talented disciple in her. Increasing strength was a big deal for any sect. Every Intermountain disciple had two major tasks. One was to find the next generation of disciples, which could only be found after a lot of hard work. The second was to cultivate the dragon taming technique. Finding a successor was the most important task, and Goddess Attraction Mountain's requirements for disciples were too high. Logically, there was only one person in the world who had reincarnated from Goddess Attraction Mountain and returned to the mountain. Finding this successor and bringing him to Goddess Attraction Mountain was the most important task. For thousands of years, every search for a successor was difficult. However, although it was difficult, the inheritance was not broken. It could be considered prosperous. Dying before growing up or dying before being found was very common, but it had never happened to a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. It could be said that the heavens were looking out for them. Now, the heavens had sent another successor to Goddess Attraction Mountain. He could not believe it. Since it involved the reincarnation of a deva, he did not dare to make a sudden decision. Mountain Chieftain, Zhou Jie asked doubtfully, "Is Junior Chu a disciple of our inner mountain?" Zhou dumbly was like a spring breeze. Zhou Jie was very relaxed and could not help but ask, Since there is such a rule, we will follow it." Zhou dumbly took a deep breath and made a decision. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, as long as Chu Li met the requirements, he would be an Intermountain disciple. In the future, he could go to the Outland to investigate. It was likely that Chu Li was also a reincarnated deva. Otherwise, he would not have such qualifications. Two deva reincarnated at the same time. Would Goddess Attraction Mountain face a disaster? Thinking of this, he became vigilant and smiled at Chu Li. "Chu Li, from today onwards, you are an Intermountain disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. This is your waist tag." He took out a silver tag and handed it to Chu Li. Chu Li received it with both hands. "Greetings, Hill Master." Zhou dumbly smiled. Goddess Attraction Mountain does not need so many formalities. Since you have cultivated the Spirit Snake technique, you are my disciple. Dong Jianxin is your senior. "Yes." Chu Li fist saluted. "Greetings, Master." He knew that if he wanted to become an Empyrean god, he had to learn from other people's strong points. There was nothing wrong with acknowledging more than one master, so he did not force himself to address him as Master. Since Master taught him the art of dragon control, it was only right for him to address him as Master. Jian Xin is cultivating in seclusion. Don't disturb him. Come with me. Zhou dumbly waved his hand and walked into the palace. Zhou Jie stared blankly at Chu Li and Zhou dumbly as they left. He did not follow them. He never thought that Chu Li would become his master's uncle. Initially, Zhang Xian thought that even if he became an Intermountain disciple, he would still be his junior brother or even his disciple. It would save him the trouble of finding a successor and allow him to focus on cultivating the art of dragon taming. He had never thought that things would turn out like this. He would have to call Chu Li Masters Jr. He gritted his teeth and glared at Chu Li, but there was nothing he could do to stop the Hill Master. Out of sight, out of mind. Since the Hill Master did not call out to him, he took the opportunity to leave. Zhou dumbly arrived in front of the portrait in the basilica and bowed 3 times, signaling Chu Li to follow the etiquette. Chu Li also bowed 3 times to the middle-aged man riding a dragon in the painting. "This is our patriarch." Zhou dumbly sighed and said, "Speaking of which, our Celestial Attraction Mountain's inheritance is not that old. It is far from the strength of the sects in the world today. Of course, Celestial Attraction Mountain is number 1. Although the other great sects have deep foundations and countless experts, far from what Celestial Attraction Mountain can compare to, the Celestial Attraction Mountain's deities are superior, suppressing the other deities and achieving their current status. Even if the enlightened masters were not taken into account, the experts of Goddess Attraction Mountain were also tyrannical. One of them was more powerful than 10 or even 100. In addition, Goddess Attraction Mountain did not participate in the disputes of the secular world. It only guarded Goddess Attraction Mountain and did not come out. Its status was aloof. Later on, the Goddess Attraction Mountain became the entrance between the sky beyond Avalon and this world. Its status became even more transcendent, and only the sky beyond Avalon could control it. Joe Dunley said, "The art of dragon control has a total of 9 layers. Compared to the spirit snake incantation, it might be a bit more difficult to cultivate. Even if you stay on Goddess Attraction Mountain and cultivate in seclusion, it will still be very difficult to quickly master it." Chuli nodded and sighed to himself. It seemed that his path to becoming an enlightened master was very long, and it would be very difficult for him to reach the enlightened master level before Sun Mingwei did. An enlightened master was on another level. Compared to Grandmaster, it was like a different world. Joe Dunley said, "It's a pity that we can't enter Grandmaster. Otherwise, the art of dragon control would be easy." Chuli raised his eyebrows. "Master, the art of dragon control requires spiritual energy from Grandmaster. Is that why it is difficult to cultivate?" Joe Dunley gave him a deep look. "As expected of the Spirit Serpent spell, you've grasped the key to this. Yes, the dragon control spell looks like a spiritual beast technique, but it's actually a spiritual beast technique passed down from the Grandmaster. It's different from normal spiritual beast techniques. It needs the spiritual energy of the Grandmaster to successfully cultivate." Chuli said, "If there is enough spiritual energy from Grandmaster, can I quickly master the art of dragon control? If there is enough spiritual energy from Grandmaster, it won't be too difficult to cultivate." Joe dumbly nodded, "But this is just a daydream. Although Goddess Attraction Mountain is the entrance to Grandmaster, only a trace of spiritual energy from Grandmaster leaks out." Chuli slowly nodded. "The spiritual energy from Goddess Attraction Mountain is enough to cultivate the Spirit Snake incantation, but not enough to cultivate the art of dragon control." Joe dumbly shook his head. "This can't be helped. All right, I will teach you the art of dragon control." He took out a jade pendant and handed it to Chuli. Chuli took it with both hands. "Use the inner energy of the Spirit Snake incantation to activate it," Joe Dunley said. "This is the reason why you can only cultivate the art of dragon control when you have perfected the Spirit Snake incantation. Only the inner energy of the Spirit Snake incantation can activate the Inheritance Jade." Chuli held the jade pendant with both hands, and his inner energy surged into it. The jade pendant became warmer, as if a stream of clear spring water was poured into it. As he infused more inner energy into it, the warm luster became brighter. When he infused all his inner energy, the jade pendant shone like a pool of autumn water. It was clear and pleasant, but there were no other changes. "Don't rush, take it slow." Joe dumbly smiled. "This is also a chance for you to train your cultivation." Chuli smiled. This jade pendant was indeed interesting. Chapter 3342. "Can I leave the mountain?" Chuli asked. "Up to you." Joe dumbly nodded. "The disciples of Goddess Attraction Mountain are very free. You can cultivate however you want. You can cultivate on the mountain or at the foot of the mountain. You can cultivate in the mortal world." Chuli smiled. Joe Dunley said, "But there's one condition. If you cause trouble outside, you can only deal with it yourself. I can't leave Goddess Attraction Mountain unless you're killed." Chuli nodded slowly. Joe Dunley smiled. "Your senior brother Dong Jianxin has cultivated to the 3rd level. If you work hard, you might be able to surpass him. The enlightened master position might be yours." "I can only become an enlightened master when I've perfected the dragon taming technique?" "No need." Joe Dunley shook his head. "Whoever has the higher level will become an enlightened master in 10 years. You can continue cultivating the dragon taming technique after you become an enlightened master." 10 years. Chuli nodded. Joe Dunley said, "I'll enter the Grandmaster's boundary after 10 years and rarely return. The enlightened master is either you or Jinshin. After another 60 years, it'll be passed down to the next generation. Chu Li asked, only one enlightened master? Yes. Zhou dumbly nodded. Both of you can't be enlightened masters. But it's hard to say. How old are you? 21. Chu Li said. Zhou dumbly smiled. Looks like even if you fail the next time, there'll be a next time. Chu Li looked at him doubtfully. Zhou dumbly said, an enlightened master must be under 100 years old. After 100 years, you can't become an enlightened master. 10 years later, when Jinshin becomes an enlightened master, you'll be 90 years old. Your cultivation level and age match. You must be an enlightened master. It's a pity for Zhou Jie. He had a headache thinking about it. Zhou Jie and Chu Li were the same age. Once Chu Li became an enlightened master, Zhou Jie would have no chance. Goddess Attraction Mountain was not this troublesome. It was passed down from generation to generation. Although there was only one disciple, it was peaceful and there were no such troubles. Now that it was involved in the battle for enlightened master, it could lead to a disaster. Chu Li said, Master, I heard a rumor that those who cultivate the dragon taming technique have a chance to become an enlightened master. Zhou dumbly shook his head. It's just a rumor, it's not proven. Chu Li nodded. Zhou dumbly stared at him and said, if you can cultivate the art of dragon control to perfection, you can give it a try. But the prerequisite is that you must first cultivate the art of dragon control to perfection. Don't get distracted and lose the big picture because of a small thing. Yes, Chu Li nodded. He looked at Zhou dumbly's expression. This path of defying the heavens and becoming a deity was feasible. Otherwise, Zhou dumbly would have directly denied it. He could enter and exit the sky beyond heaven, so he must have a deeper understanding than the other deities. This gave him confidence and made him even more determined to practice the art of dragon control. However, he had been channeling inner force into it for so long, and he had not stopped circulating it as he spoke. The jade pendant in his hand was getting brighter and brighter, but it was only brighter and nothing else. Cultivate well. Zhou dumbly smiled. Next time, just ring the bell directly. Yes. Chu Li nodded. Zhou dumbly strode out of the basilica and let out a long howl into the sky. The howl reverberated in the air, causing Zhou dumbly's vigor to tremble. Mahavairocana's immobility scripture circulated automatically to suppress any abnormalities. A deafening dragon roar came from the horizon. Then, a dragon glowing with golden light gracefully emerged from the clouds. Zhou dumbly leaped up and flew straight up. When he reached the highest point and was about to fall, the golden dragon suddenly sped up and caught him. It soared into the sky again and soon disappeared into the clouds without a trace. Chu Li looked at the golden dragon and thought about the evil nether dragon. He smiled and shook his head. They were both dragons, but the difference was too big. The evil nether dragon was much weaker in front of this golden dragon. It might not even be able to withstand a claw. Moreover, it was ugly. Compared to the elegance and beauty of this dragon, it was too ugly. After a long time, Zhou Jie floated over. Chu Li sized him up and nodded with a smile. Zhou Jie forced a smile and closed fist saluted. Someone is looking for you, Masters Junior Chu. When Masters Junior Chu said this, he had goosebumps all over his body. It was so disgusting that he wanted to slap his own ears. Looking for me? Chu Li smiled. There are people who can come to Goddess Attraction Mountain to look for someone. As long as they shout at the bottom of Goddess Attraction Mountain, we can hear them, Zhou Jie said. They've been shouting for a while. I think we should go down and take a look, or else we won't be able to have peace. His gaze was fixed on the jade pendant in Chu Li's hands. He could tell at a glance that it was the inheritance jade pendant, and inside it was the dragon taming technique. When he saw this jade pendant, he was envious and jealous, but helpless. With this, Chu Li was definitely his master's junior uncle. It cannot be changed. Even if master came out of isolation, he could not change this fact. Chu Li was indeed his master's junior uncle. Chu Li put the inheritance jade pendant in his arms and glided down the stairs. He sat on a white crane and glided down. When he arrived at the foot of the mountain, he saw 10 people in the forest at the foot of the mountain. The leader of the group was a young man with a tall and strong body. He had a tough appearance and a masculine aura. 9 middle-aged grandmasters surrounded him and protected him tightly. It was impossible for them to sneak an attack on him. When Chuli landed on the crane in front of them, the 9 middle-aged masters changed their formation and formed 2 rows with a masculine young man behind them. They stared at Chu Li fiercely, and their bodies tensed up. They could feel Chu Li's tyrannical strength. His mountainous and ocean-like aura rushed towards them and could crush them at any time. Chu Li's gaze fell on the young man's face. He said lightly, "I'm Chu Li." Tang Yi pushed the protectors aside and came in front of Chu Li. He closed fists, saluted, and smiled. "Chief Chu, I've heard a lot about you. I'm Tang Yi." Chu Li nodded. "So it's the third prince. Forgive me for not recognizing you. We don't know each other, right?" He was trying to guess Tang Yi's background. As expected of the Fu dynasty's prince and royal highness, Tang Yi actually had several treasured weapons on him that concealed his thoughts and cultivation level. Even though the omniscient mirror could not see him clearly, Tang Yi's cultivation level was not low. He was also a master in the Grandmaster's boundary. "I'm here because of Miss Lu Yurong," Tang Yi said slowly. Chu Li nodded and looked at him without saying a word. He was listening attentively. Tang Yi said, "I fell in love with Miss Lu at first sight. I couldn't help myself." Chu Li frowned and his face darkened. Tang Yi sighed. "I've seen many beauties and all of them were stunning. The only one who could truly move my heart is Miss Lu." Chu Li said in a low voice, "What do you mean?" "Third prince. As far as I know, Chief Chu has a wife," Tang Yi said. Chu Li said, "Third prince also has a consort." Tang Yi shook his head and smiled. "That can't be compared. Our identities are different. I'm a descendant of the emperor. Of course, I need a consort. However, Chief Chu is different. The third lady of the House of High Duke has deep feelings for you. She didn't look down on you because of your insignificant status. Instead, she promoted you from an unranked scribe to a chief. She's your benefactor. How can you let her down?" Chu Li smiled. Chapter 3343. Chu Li said, "You don't have to worry about that." Sigh. Tang Yi shook his head. "I can't help but worry. Think about it. If Miss Lu were to be with you, many people would accuse her of seducing you." Chu Li smiled. "What's the point of being criticized by others?" Good, good. Tang Yi clapped his hands and nodded. "Great minds think alike. I don't care what others say." Chu Li said, "You don't want me to be engaged to Miss Lu?" "Yes." Tang Yi nodded. "As long as you agree to this, you can ask for anything. As long as I can do it, I won't blink." Chu Li shook his head. "I'll have to disappoint you, third prince. I have no plans to leave Miss Lu. How can I let go of a woman like her? If it were you, would you let her go?" "No." Tang Yi shook his head. Chu Li smiled. "That's it." Tang Yi said, "Chief Chu, you should know that a peerless beauty like Miss Lu is like a priceless treasure. Not everyone can guard such a treasure." "I think I can." "Chief Chu, you're too confident." Tang Yi shook his head. "I'm here because I don't want to use any other methods. I don't want everyone to be unhappy and hate each other." Chu Li smiled and did not say anything. Tang Yi said, "Only by my side can I protect a peerless beauty like Miss Lu and prevent others from coveting her. As for you, Chief Chu, although your martial arts are very high, your status is really not high enough." "Status?" Chu Li pondered. Tang Yi said, "Chief Chu, you should know that as long as I say the word, I don't have to do anything else. Someone will send Miss Lu to me naturally. Your martial art is excellent, but not everyone in the Ji dynasty is as good as you." Chu Li frowned. "Third prince, let me give you a piece of advice. Not every beauty will belong to you. I'm taking Miss Lu." Tang Yi's face darkened. "Chief Chu, don't be so shameless. You have to use force." Chu Li said, "Then I'll wait and see what you're going to do." "Chief Chu, do you think that because you're an outer mountain disciple of Immortal Attraction Mountain, I will have misgivings?" Tang Yi pointed at the towering Goddess Attraction Mountain and shook his head with a smile. "I'll have to disappoint you. Your identity is useless." Chu Li smiled and took out a silver badge from his pocket. He waved it in front of Tang Yi. What about this? Tang Yi frowned as he looked at the silver token. It was about the size of a palm, and the exquisite patterns on it seemed to have come to life. It flickered under the sunlight, and one could tell at a glance that it was no ordinary object. He recognized this waist token. Where did this come from? Tang Yi asked in a low voice. Chu Li smiled. What does the third prince think? It can't be yours, right? Exactly. Impossible. Tang Yi retracted his gaze from the silver token and shook his head. Impossible. Chu Li tossed it casually. The two middle-aged men blocked with their bodies and stretched out their hands to take the tokens. However, the silver token suddenly made a turn in the air and avoided their hands. Tang Yi glared at him fiercely. Can't you come up with some ideas? Su Shirxing sighed. Miss Lu is beautiful, but there are many beauties in the world. Why must you marry her? I must have her. Tang Yi scoffed. Lu Yurong's beautiful face flashed before his eyes again. After thinking about her for the past few days, his desire grew. He wanted to snatch Lu Yurong right now and hold her in his arms. Su Shirxing looked at him helplessly. He was helpless against such a willful and reckless master. The white crane chirped. Tang Yi arrived on a crane in a yellow robe. He floated down and gave a fist salute. Third uncle. Tang Yi waved and smiled. Xiao Zhao, come here. Tell me, have you been bullied or wronged here? Tang Zhao smiled. What are you thinking, third uncle? With my identity, who would bully me? That Chu didn't bully you. Brother Chu? Of course he wouldn't bully anyone. Then is it true that he became an inner mountain disciple? Yes. Tang Zhao looked impressed. No wonder he could kill Wei Wu Wei. He really is a rare genius. He mastered the spirit serpent technique and became an inner mountain disciple. Tang Yi gritted his teeth. If that's the case, he will definitely become an enlightened master in the future. An enlightened master. Tang Zhao frowned and shook his head. That might not be the case. Brother Chu is now our master's uncle. He will have to compete with another master's uncle. It's hard to say who will become an enlightened master. Tang Yi allowed a long sigh and smiled. That's good, Tang Zhao said. Third uncle, you have a grudge against him? He knew his third uncle well. He was reckless and arrogant. He offended people too easily. He stole third uncle's woman. Tang Yi said hatefully. Third uncle, how can you let him go just because he is a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain? Tang Zhao understood immediately. Third uncle wanted to steal Chu Li's woman. He hesitated and advised. Third uncle, he is indeed a genius. It's better not to have a grudge against him. It's not that third uncle wants to have a grudge. It's just that he is too arrogant. It's unbearable. Tang Yi scoffed. Chapter 3344. Tang Yi watched as Tang Zhao flew up into the clouds and disappeared. He turned to glare at Su Shirxing. You have nothing to say now, right? What enlightened master? There's no such thing. Look at how scared you are. Su Shirxing smiled bitterly. It's not impossible for him to become an enlightened master. He's a genius. It's not difficult for him to surpass the other one. He's not an enlightened master yet. Tang Yi scoffed. Besides, if we can cripple him, he won't become an enlightened master. Your Royal Highness, he's a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Su Shirxing hurriedly said. Tang Yi said, just don't let anyone find out. Goddess Attraction Mountain isn't a god. Do you think they know everything? That's too risky. Su Shirxing advised. Tang Yi scoffed. So what if Goddess Attraction Mountain finds out? What can they do to me? Su Shirxing was stunned and did not say anything more. Tang Yi's identity was very important. Even if Goddess Attraction Mountain found out, they might not dare to do anything. After all, Tang Yi had the bloodline of an enlightened master. He was protected by an enlightened master. No matter how much trouble he caused, his life would be spared. All right, stop being overcautious. You're embarrassing me. Tang Yi scoffed. Do whatever you want. I don't believe I can't get this woman. None of the women I've set my eyes on have escaped. Yes, Su Shirxing said. Early in the morning, Su Shirxing led the 9 knights and appeared outside the main gate of the Ren public house. 2 stone lions glared at them fiercely. For protectors of the High Duke's public house stood with their hands on their swords, vigilantly blocking their way. Su Shirshing sat on his horse and fist saluted. Please inform them that I'm here to propose marriage to your public house on behalf of the Fu dynasty's third prince. The four protectors looked at each other and sized up Su Shirshing. Su Shirshing proudly scoffed. What? Is this how the Ren public house treats its guests? The red door, covered with copper nails, slowly opened. The Ren public house's external chief strode out and fist saluted enthusiastically as he led them into the living room. Isn't the lady engaged to Chief Chu? Why is there another proposal? The four protectors stood at the door and whispered. It's not surprising that the Fu dynasty's third prince is interested in someone like the lady. The third prince is such an important person. I think it's better for the young lady to marry the third prince. Although he's a little arrogant, he's still a prince of the Fu dynasty. He's more honorable than the princes of the Ji dynasty, and he's also more honorable than Chu Li. That's true. The fact that Chu Li is able to marry the third lady of the Yi public house is already a blessing in disguise. Now that he wants to marry the lady, it's really Chu Li's martial arts is peerless. Only he can suppress someone like the lady. The lady should like Chu Li. She has both intelligence and martial arts. Are you going to let the third prince's love down? Su Shirshing said coldly. Lu Yulo calmly nodded. I can only appreciate the third prince's deep affection. Su Shirshing stared at him motionlessly. Lu Yulo also looked at him, calm and magnanimous. Su Shirshing laughed coldly and said, he really doesn't know how to appreciate favors. How can Chu Li be compared to our prince? Although our house of high dukes is not talented, we're not the kind of people who climb up to the rich. Lu Yulo shook his head and said, the engagement is completely up to little sister's will. We will not sacrifice little sister for benefits. You have guts. I admire you. Su Shirshing closed fist saluted, turned around, and strode away. Lu Yulo watched as they jumped on their horses and galloped away. He frowned and his eyes flashed. He went straight to the backyard. Lu Yurong was wearing a snow-white gown and was playing the guzheng in the gazebo. Her white hand were playing the guzheng slowly, elegant and calm. The sound of the guzheng was loud and clear. When Lu Yulo heard the sound of the guzheng, he could not help but smile. It seemed that little sister was not worried because of this. She was very calm. Lu Yurong's hands pressed on the strings, and the sound of the guzheng stopped. She looked up and asked, left? Lu Yulo sat opposite her. Left disappointed. I can see that they will not give up. I think they went to the fairy's capital. Lu Yurong picked up the teacup. A maid beside her served Lu Yulo a cup of tea. Little sister, can you really handle it? Lu Yulo frowned. Once they go to the fairy's capital, I'm afraid that His Highness might not be able to stop them and force you to separate from Chu Li. What will you do then? His Highness won't. Lu Yurong shook her head. The benefits involved were easy to calculate. The crown prince was not a foolish person. He would not risk offending Chu Li to cater to the Fu dynasty, even if the Fu dynasty could suppress the Ji dynasty. Lu Yulo shook his head. We have to be careful. Even if His Highness won't. What about the emperor? Lu Yurong frowned and muttered. We can't guess or influence the emperor's thoughts. You can only obey the emperor's decree, Lu Yulo said. Lu Yurong shook her head. If that's the case, I'll just kill myself. You can't hide it. Lu Yulo said, they are not fools. Lu Yurong frowned and did not say anything. Under the general trend, it was difficult to stay out of it. Can Chu Li help? Lu Yulo asked. Lu Yurong sighed. Lu Yulo said, Chu Li today is different from the past. Lu Yurong shook her head. His foundation is still too shallow. There is a high chance that enlightened masters will appear in the Tempest Temple. Now, it all depends on whether he can become an inner disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. As they spoke, a maid hurried to the gazebo and presented a bamboo tube with both hands. My lady, a secret report. Lu Yurong reached out and took it. After opening it, a bright smile appeared on her face. Lu Yulo quickly asked, is it good news? Chu Li has become an inner disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. As expected of Chu Li, Lu Yulo was shocked. He really became an inner disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain? Chapter 33:45. Lu Yurong pursed her lips and nodded. Her smile was as beautiful as a flower. I can finally relax this time. It might not be useful even if he becomes a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Lu Yulo was not as optimistic. He shook his head. He's alone. How can he resist the Fu dynasty's imperial family? Lu Yurong said, just give the emperor some confidence. The Fu dynasty and the Ji dynasty were too different in terms of national power. Even if the emperor was an enlightened master, he would not be confident in facing the Fu dynasty. The Ji dynasty was his lifeline, so he would yield easily. If Chuli became a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain, the emperor would have more confidence in facing the Fu dynasty. She knew that Su Shishing and the others were going to the fairy's capital to propose marriage to the emperor. She could not be sure if the emperor would yield and sacrifice himself. This is difficult. Lu Yulo shook his head. He knew that against the Fu dynasty, even if his little sister was intelligent, the crown prince's right-hand man, and the commander of the secret guardians' hall, she was still expendable in the emperor's eyes. He would not hesitate to abandon her. The public house was important, but when the Fu dynasty exerted enough power, the emperor would not be able to withstand it. Lu Yurong frowned. I want to go back to the fairy's capital. Don't do anything rash. Lu Yulo was worried that she would take the risk and assassinate the Fu dynasty's officials. There were always Fu dynasty's officials in the fairy's capital as messengers from both countries to exchange information and prevent any misunderstandings. If his little sister killed these officials, the Ji dynasty and the Fu dynasty would fall out, let alone marry. I'll be careful. Lu Yurong nodded. Sai, it's my fault. I'm useless and can't protect you. Lu Yulo sighed. Lu Yurong smiled. Big brother, you're wrong. How many people can stop the Fu dynasty? I'll leave now. All right. Lu Yulo nodded. In the evening, the sunset dyed the snow crescent lake into a beautiful glow. Chu Li suddenly appeared in a waterside pavilion. It was Xiao Qi's pavilion. He pushed the door open and sat opposite Shininghu. Aunt. Shininghu was Xiao Qi's aunt. As her husband, he naturally addressed her as aunt. Shininghu was in a light green gown. She looked at him lazily. You're finally here. Chu Li smiled. Is young Qi around? She's not here. Shininghu shook her head. Chu Li furrowed his brows. Shininghu said she wanted to go out and train her heart, so she left on her own. Where are we going? Chu Li frowned. Since he could not sense Xiao Qi's presence, it was obvious that she had done this on purpose. She had removed the jade talisman and other belongings from her body, leaving no clues for him. Nonetheless, he had the all-seeing divine technique, so he was not worried that he would not be able to find her. He was worried that Xiao Qi's actions might be because she was really angry. Shininghu shook her head and said, she follows her heart. No one knows where she goes. Not even you as her husband? Chu Li shook his head. Shininghu frowned and sized him up. Are you two fighting? Chu Li shook his head. Shininghu scoffed. A while ago, High Duke Lu's daughter came over and said something to Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi actually agreed to be that Lu girl's shield. How ridiculous. Chu Li looked embarrassed. Shininghu said, do you have other intentions? There isn't a single good man in the world. Xiao Qi left because she was angry? Chu Li sighed. Shininghu scoffed. No matter how open-minded Xiao Qi is, she's still a woman. How can she not be angry? Chu Li nodded and said, then I'll go look for her. Forget it. She won't let you go. She needs to focus on her cultivation. If you go, you'll beat her up. Shininghu waved her hand and said. Chu Li said, she can't continue cultivating her technique. The regal sword scripture was obtained by eldest sister. Xiao Qi must cultivate it. You won't be able to persuade her. Moreover, the regal sword scripture is indeed mysterious. It's a grandmaster's study. If she can really cultivate it, she might become an enlightened master. Shininghu shook her head. Chu Li frowned and did not say anything. As his cultivation level improved and his boundary deepened, he felt that the regal sword scripture was more mysterious than he had imagined. It was just that it was too difficult to cultivate, and Xiao Qi had only scratched the surface of it. Just listen to her, Shininghu said. But I have to remind you, Don't make it real. Yes. Chuli nodded. Shuninghu gave him a sidelong glance and said, Little Lu is also a beauty. As a man, it's understandable that you're tempted. But if you really let Xiaoqi down, don't blame me for being rude. Her bright eyes flashed, and her lazy aura disappeared. Suddenly, there was a hint of sharpness. Chuli closed fist saluted, Don't worry, Aunt. Shuninghu rolled her eyes at him. Go back. Chuli closed fist saluted and left, returning to the imperial residence of King. And when he arrived at the backyard of the imperial residence, it was already dusk. The lanterns were lit, and the backyard was brightly lit. Seo Shi was watering the flowers and personally weeding a few of them. She was very busy. The maid stood at the side holding towels and teacups, passing them to her from time to time. She would take a sip of tea before lowering her head to continue with her work. When Chuli appeared, she acted as if she did not see him and continued with her work. Chuli coughed softly. Seo Shi was dressed in a white outfit. It added a sense of heroism to her, but it was less delicate. She continued weeding as if she did not hear the cough. Chuli coughed again. Seo Shi gave him a sidelong glance and scoffed. Are you hurt? Chuli shook his head. Seo Shi scoffed. You married my younger sister, and now you're marrying Lu Yuro. You're marrying two ladies from the house of High Dukes. Aren't you proud? Chuli knew she was angry when he heard that. He shook his head helplessly. Seo Shi gave him a sidelong glance. Say it. Why don't you defend yourself? I have nothing to say. Chuli sighed. He knew that the more he defended himself, the angrier she would get. He originally wanted to find Seo Chi to help her calm down. No matter how angry Seo Chi was, as long as he hugged her in his arms and said a few gentle words, the matter would be over. Seo Chi was cold and indifferent. She usually did not show her tender feelings. She was extremely reserved, but her feelings were deep. It was hard for her to be angry at him. He did not expect Seo Chi to avoid him. He could only come to Seo Shi's side. Seo Shi was not as easy to fool as Seo Chi. Seo Shi scoffed. Congratulations, you're going to be cuckolded. The emperor has agreed to the Fu dynasty's third prince's proposal. What? Chuli was stunned. He looked at her suspiciously. It can't be. Xiao Shi's beautiful, jade-like face smiled lightly. Why not? Chuli frowned. He originally thought that once he became an inner mountain disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain, his status would be different. Even if the Ji dynasty did not dare to offend the Fu dynasty, they would not dare to do anything to him. Seo Shi pouted her red lips and scoffed. Do you really think that your status is that high in the emperor's eyes? Chu Li's face darkened. Seo Shi scoffed. Our emperor is cold-blooded and heartless. He can sacrifice anyone. Lu Yurong aside, even his own daughter will marry the Fu dynasty. Chu Li lowered his voice. Doesn't he know that this is a taboo? How can he not know? Seo Shi scoffed, but he doesn't care. As long as the Fu dynasty is satisfied, he will agree. Chu Li looked at her in confusion. Chapter 33:46. Chu Li took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He had never expected this to happen. He thought his position was high enough, and he was the undisputed #1 among the younger generation. He even killed Wei Wuwei and forced the Church of the Divine Blood to seal their mountain. Even if the emperor was angry and disliked him, he could not ignore his strength and agree to the Fu dynasty's proposal. Otherwise, what would happen to him? His betrothed woman was taken away, and it was the emperor himself who agreed to the Fu dynasty's proposal. He was completely humiliated and could no longer stand in the Ji dynasty. If he wanted to wash away this humiliation, he could only snatch his woman back. This was no different from forcing him to fight the Fu dynasty's imperial family. No matter how powerful he was, he could not defeat the entire imperial family. He would definitely die. Lung Wufeng was forcing him to his death. He felt a chill run down his spine when he thought about this. His face darkened. Xiao Shi said, Do you know how many enemies you have now? Not only do all the factions want you dead, but so does the emperor, the crown prince, and even Lu Yurong. She's so smart. How could she not have foreseen this? Chu Li remained silent. Anger surged and boiled in his heart. He wanted to rush into the imperial house, drag Lung Wufeng out, and beat him half to death, or even kill him. Calm down, don't do anything rash. Xiaoshi took a cup of tea and passed it to him. She walked into the gazebo and sat on an embroidered stool to take a sip. The faint aroma of tea lingered in the gazebo. Chu Li savored the tea, experiencing the bitterness and sweetness. He calmed down and suppressed his anger. It seemed like these people had seen through Goddess Attraction Mountain's weakness. They knew they did not care about worldly affairs and dared to treat him like this. Perhaps this was where the enlightened master's confidence came from. They knew that the enlightened masters would not intervene unless it involved life and death. The master of Goddess Attraction Mountain would not intervene. As for the future, another enlightened master would naturally take over. As long as it did not involve life and death, it was not a big deal. Chu Li put down his teacup and muttered, "Looks like the emperor is determined to sacrifice Lu Yurong. You and Lu Yurong will be sacrificed." Xiao shook her head and said, "After this incident, I'm afraid Lu Yurong can forget about being the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. The emperor won't be at ease with her either. It's inevitable that she'll be resentful. We need to prevent her from retaliating." Chu Li frowned. Is the emperor going to change the crown prince? Maybe he thinks that the crown prince's position is stable and he doesn't need Lu Yurong anymore. Xiao scoffed and said, "The most heartless people are the imperial family. None of them are good people. Lu Yurong is a woman after all. She's not suitable to be the crown prince's confidant. When the crown prince ascends the throne in the future, Lu Yurong's position will be awkward. It's better to get rid of her now." Chu Li said, "Lu Yurong is from the house of High Duke. She is the most reliable. The crown prince should not give up on her." The crown prince didn't let go, but the emperor forced him to give up. What else could he do? Xiao pouted her red lips and said, "This emperor of ours always thinks that women are unreliable and unworthy of great responsibility." She often entered the palace and chatted with the empress and the empress dowager. She was like a fish in the water in the back palace. She was well-informed and understood the emperor better. Xiao said, "You should be a coward for now. Cultivate well on the mountain. It won't be too late to settle the score with them when you become an enlightened master." She felt that the best thing to do now was to play dumb. As long as Chu Li stayed on Goddess Attraction Mountain and said that he was in isolated cultivation, no one could say anything. As long as he endured through this period of time, Lu Yurong would be married and everything would be over. Moreover, Chu Li and Lu Yurong were fake. She already knew from Shao Qi's letter that there was no need to risk her life for a fake engagement. Chu Li frowned and did not say anything. "Where's Lu Yurong?" "She?" Xiao shook her head and said, "I heard that she returned to the Ren public house. There's no news of her." Chu Li nodded. Xiao saw his expression and quickly said, "Don't mess around." Chu Li said, "The engagement doesn't matter if it's real or fake. We can only treat it as real now. If he announced it was a fake engagement, everyone would think that he was afraid of Tang Yi and backed out. Instead, they would believe that it was a real engagement. They would only feel ashamed of his hypocrisy and cowardice. His reputation would be ruined. In this world, reputation was extremely important. It had a formless and fatal power. He could not let his reputation be ruined." Xiao frowned and slowly nodded. She knew this too. Now that it had come to this, she could only treat it as real. Chu Li gritted his teeth and sneered. "If that's the case, then we might as well get married. Is the emperor going to send someone to stop us from getting married? I'd like to see if the emperor still has the cheek to do so." "You're really daring. Will Lu Yurong agree?" Xiao smiled. Chu Li said, "She's forced to a dead end now. It's not like she won't dare." Based on his understanding, Lu Yurong will agree. She also has the courage to fight back. Also, as a lady of the High Duke's public house, as long as she doesn't rebel, the emperor can't do anything to her. Otherwise, she might not agree. Chu Li slowly said, "Let's see her first." Xiao quickly said, "Let's go now." Chapter 33:47. The Ren public house's backyard was brightly lit as if it was daytime. A faint fragrance wafted in the air, accompanied by the sound of a guzheng. Chu Li and Sio sure suddenly appeared, but no one noticed. The sound of the guzheng was calm and peaceful without a trace of metal. The person playing the guzheng was Lu Yurong. Chu Li coughed softly and broke the silence. The sound of the guzheng stopped abruptly. Lu Yurong was dressed in a white tunic. She turned around and smiled. Head Chief Chu and Second Lady, it's an honor to have you here. Sio sure frowned as she looked at her. Aren't you angry at all? She slowly walked to the gazebo and sat opposite Lu Yurong. Both of their faces were as white as jade. One was extremely beautiful, while the other was charming. The flowers in the garden seemed to have lost their color. Chu Li sat between them. Lu Yurong glanced at Chu Li and shook her head. So what if I'm angry or not? How can I change the current situation? Second Lady came personally because of my engagement with Head Chief Chu. Am I right? She knew that Sio Sure must be furious. Sio Chi was cold and kind, but Sio Sure was not as soft-hearted. Younger sister was the one who agreed to the engagement. I have nothing to say, Sio Sure said. I'm talking about the current situation. Are you going to become a nun? Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. This is the only way. If not, Head Chief Chu will be dragged into this. I really didn't expect the Emperor to go this far. Chu Li nodded. No one expected this. I thought he would be stubborn for once, but I didn't expect him to endure it. He's really good at enduring. Enduring over and over again until he could no longer tolerate it. Lung Wufeng was really good at enduring. If it was him, he would not have been able to endure it to this extent. Of course, it was also because Lung Wufeng was cold and did not see others as humans. Lu Yurong said, I've decided to become a nun. The Emperor didn't agree, Sio Sure said. Lu Yurong said, since I've decided to become a nun, how can he stop me? Sio Sure said, don't you think it's a pity that you lost your position as a commander? You worked so hard to get that position, but it's taken away just like that. There's no mercy at all. Lu Yurong smiled lightly. I knew this day would come. Chu Li saw that she had received the news from the imperial house, but she was still so calm. It was rare that she did not have any anger in her heart. What are you going to do then? Chu Li looked at her calmly. Are you really going to become a monk? Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. This is the best way. There is no other way. There is. Xiao Shi scoffed. You can marry Chu Li. Lu Yurong was stunned and then laughed. How is that possible? Moreover, once they get married, things will get out of hand. In the end, the small arms won't be able to resist the big legs. Sio Shi sneered. Why can't I win? If you want to get married, could it be that His Majesty has decreed that you can't get married? There's no such logic in this world. I've decided to send out invitations and invite all the people from the 12 public houses to come and have a look. Lu Yurong's expression changed. She quickly shook her head. You can't do that. Once the 12 public houses gathered and agreed to change the emperor, they had the right to do so. This was a rule set by the great ancestor. It was a special position given to the 12 public houses. Once the emperor was angered by the people and harmed the country, the 12 public houses could replace the emperor and choose the best from the Lung family. The 12 public houses had never used this power. Fortunately, even if the Lung family's emperors were not wise and powerful, they were still able to maintain the status quo. They did not make any big mistakes, and there were no cruel people. There were conflicts between the 12 public houses. This was also the doing of the imperial house. Once they were united, they would not be able to sit still. This time, if the 12 public houses gathered, it would be too much of a mess. Sio Shi said impatiently, Lu Yurong, you seem to be a bold person. Why are you being so wishy-washy? Lu Yurong shook her head. It's not the same thing. This matter is of great importance. It can shake the country. We must not act recklessly. I'll hide in the mountains. Even if the emperor has a decree, he can't do anything to me. Sio Shi scoffed. It's fine with you. What about Chu Li? Chu Li waved his hand. Miss Lu, if you want to back out and not make a big deal out of it, there's a place where you can hide. Where? Lu Yurong asked. Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chu Li said, I've already asked. The disciples' families can stay there. Lu Yurong's eyes brightened. That's a good place. But those who are not married can't be considered family, Chu Li said. Lu Yurong frowned. So they're married? Co sure scoffed. Do you think the people of Goddess Attraction Mountain are stupid? If Chu Li is punished because of this, wouldn't it be a big loss for a small gain? It's fake anyway. It doesn't matter if they're engaged or married. Lu Yurong remained silent. Co sure said, this marriage must go through. She was extremely angry at the emperor's actions. It was as if he had stepped on Chu Li's face. If he could not get married, Chu Li would become the biggest joke in the world. He would lose his dignity. How could he intimidate the heroes of the world? Lu Yurong's thoughts turned, and she understood the key point. She said slowly, all right, then get married. But don't make it grand. Don't invite everyone in the public house. Since he has already shed all pretense of cordiality, there's no need to be polite. Co sure said snappily. You're not as heroic as you used to be. Lu Yurong shook her head. If it was as Co sure said, then they would really be like fire and water with the emperor. There would be no way to turn things around. The two public houses would not have good days in the future. Chu Li would become a thorn in the emperor's side. He might even kill him himself. Although Chu Li was strong, he was not an enlightened master's opponent. He still had a bright future. Once he established himself in Goddess Attraction Mountain and became an enlightened master in the future, who would dare to laugh at him? Co sure's actions were too unyielding. There would be no end to the trouble. She did not know that after Co sure heard about the emperor's actions, she was furious. She had made up her mind to let Suen fight for the throne. That was why her respect for the emperor was gone. Chu Li said, actually, there's another way to eliminate the trouble. Too bad I can't use it. If he had Sun Mingyue's help, he could kill Tang Yi directly. Even the Fu Dynasty's emperor would not be able to do anything to him. However, if he did that, the public houses would not be able to survive and might be destroyed. No matter how weak the Fu Dynasty's imperial court was, it was not something a single faction could compare to. Their strength, other than martial arts, was unparalleled. The public houses could not compete with them. Tang Yi really can't be killed. Lu Yurong shook her head. Co sure said hatefully, that bastard. Chu Li said, wait until I become an enlightened master. It won't be too late to deal with him then. Co sure rolled her eyes at him and said, all the more reason you can't make a move when you become an enlightened master. Chu Li smiled. You can all make a move. That's true. Co sure smiled sweetly. All right. You should become an enlightened master as soon as possible. Chu Li nodded slowly and looked at Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong sighed. All right, let's get married. Why don't we do it within these few days? They should get married as soon as possible to avoid any accidents. Even if the emperor's decree came, they could just hide in Goddess Attraction Mountain and the Fu Dynasty would not be able to do anything to them. Chapter 33:48. Lu Yurong frowned as she pondered. Since the emperor had gone this far, he might not stop. He might even go all the way and force the High Duke's public house to hand over the person. If that happened, the High Duke's public house would be under immense pressure. What should we do? Lu Yurong frowned and sighed. There's no solution to this. At this point, she could not help but be angry at the emperor and was extremely dissatisfied. Are we just going to wait obediently and not fight back? Co sure said hatefully, this is so frustrating. Chu Li smiled. How can one live freely? Wasn't it the same when she married into King Anne's imperial residence? Didn't she survive it too? There's no need to rush. There's always a way. There's no way. Co sure shook her head. He can only insist that his marriage with Lu Yurong is fake. Even though other people don't know about it, they still feel embarrassed after being humiliated by Long Wufeng. It's such a disgusting move. Even with the Fu Dynasty's pressure, if Long Wufeng really respected him, he would have sent someone to ask and explain. Now, Long Wufeng did this and made Chu Li a joke. Co sure scoffed. Since the emperor humiliated you, you humiliate him too. Let's see who's humiliated in the end. Chu Li said, it's too early to fight head-on. It's best not to involve the High Duke's public house. Let's split up. What do you mean? Co sure was surprised. Chu Li said, Just say that I had a falling out with the High Duke's public house because I married Lu Yurong. Huh? Co sure frowned and stared at him. Chu Li said, if I'm not mistaken, the Emperor will win over the High Duke's public house, break my foundation, and then suppress me. Falling out with you at this time? What will become of the High Duke's public house? You can't even think straight. Xiao Shi rolled her eyes. Chu Li shook his head. That's reasonable. It's my fault for being greedy. I already have Xiao Qi and Lu Yurong. The world will understand and sympathize with the High Duke's public house. Is it because of Suin? Co sure frowned. She was smart enough to see through Chu Li's intention. Chu Li nodded slowly. Since you want him to fight for the throne, you can't be too close with the Emperor. Otherwise, even if something happens to the Crown Prince, Suin won the throne. He had also seen through Co Shi's intentions. It was difficult to kill a heavenly deity, and killing Lung Wufeng to seize the throne would not be a righteous act. Suin might not be able to become a heavenly deity, so seizing the throne would require Lung Wufeng's acknowledgement. If Suin wanted to seize the throne, he would become the biggest obstacle instead. Lung Wufeng would definitely be concerned about his influence. Only by falling out with the High Duke's public house, and if something happened to the Crown Prince, Suin would have a chance to succeed the throne. Xiao Shi furrowed her brows and sighed. She shook her head and said, then your situation isn't that good. Chu Li smiled. What's wrong with that? I'm a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain, and I'm detached from the world. Rumors don't affect me at all. When I become an enlightened master in the future, who can say anything about it? Co sure remained silent. She was hesitant. Although this method was beneficial to Su and succession, it would damage Chu Li's reputation. If Chu Li married Lu Yurong, if the High Duke's public house did not make a fuss and her younger sister agreed, people would only praise and be jealous of Chu Li for marrying two ladies from the High Duke's public house. However, if the High Duke's public house made a fuss, people would mock Chu Li for being heartless and ungrateful. Without the High Duke's public house, he would not be where he was today. Yet, he forgot his kindness because of a woman. Chu Li said, it's decided then. What about Lu Yurong? Co sure frowned. We have to make it clear to her. She's so smart. How can she not understand our intentions? Chu Li nodded slowly. I'll make it clear to her. All right. Co sure made up her mind and said, then it's decided. We'll make a fuss here and make it presentable. After a while, I'll think of a way to get Suin involved in politics. Chu Li nodded. The fight for the throne was about to begin. Co sure said, but you're not allowed to stay in Goddess Attraction Mountain and not come back. You'll have to come back every few days, and I'll need your advice. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Early in the morning, Chu Li appeared in the backyard again. Lu Yurong was cultivating in a white robe. Her Empyrean fairy palm was light and graceful. She was like an otherworldly fairy descending from the heavens. She danced gently as if she was dancing. Chu Li suddenly raised his eyebrows. The life and death scripture sent a surge of spiritual energy from the outland. Lu Yurong's palms suddenly lit up. Then, she stopped and turned to Chu Li. Chu Li nodded to himself. It seemed like his guess was right. The Empyrean fairy power was also a heart technique from the outland. It could transform and use the spiritual energy from the outland. If she had her own spiritual energy from the outland, her cultivation speed would increase. Lu Yurong gave him a sidelong glance and continued to dance. Chu Li suddenly appeared in front of her and slapped her with his palm. Bam! Both of their palms collided. Lu Yurong took 10 steps back and almost fell into the bushes. She said angrily, I'm impressed. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. You're distracted. Oomph. I'm not that talented. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes at him. She went to the gazebo and sat down. Soon, a maid served tea. She looked at Chu Li curiously and retreated. Chu Li told her about his plan to fall out with the public house. Lu Yurong frowned and looked at him. Her mind was racing. She knew that Chu Li and the public house had a deep relationship. They were really like family. It was impossible for them to fall out. There must be a deeper meaning behind this. Not only was he afraid of implicating the public house, the public house had nothing to be implicated in this matter. Chu Li looked at her calmly. After a while, Lu Yurong frowned. Suin, Chu Li clapped and smiled. As expected of Miss Lu, he did not plan to hide it from Lu Yurong. There was no need to hide this matter. It was not strange to have the intention to fight for the throne. Even if the crown prince was chosen, King Chung and the others might not completely give up. As long as they did not ascend the throne, they would not give up. So it did not matter. His Highness the Crown Prince did not do much in this matter. Lu Yurong was already bitterly disappointed. Even if she knew that Suan wanted to fight for the throne, she would not stop him. She might even want to help him. You're really scheming. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chapter 33:49. Chu Li sighed and said helplessly, even if the Emperor comes personally, he'll still wait after seeing the situation. It's better for the 9 of you to go in and rest. It won't be too late to announce the decree after drinking the wedding wine. As he spoke, his figure flashed past the 9 people like a gust of wind. Their bodies were stiff and motionless. Their acupuncture points had been sealed. All they could do was stare at him hatefully with their eyes wide open, but their mouths could not move. Chu Li turned and smiled. Fa Yuan, give me a hand. Help these people to rest inside. Umitba, Fa Yuan chanted, and gave the 4 people behind him a look. The 4 middle-aged monks bowed with pressed palms and glided to the 9 people's side. They helped them up and walked inside. Each of them had 2 protectors on their shoulders. It looked like they were supporting each other, but they were actually carrying 1 protector with each hand. Their feet did not touch the ground as they entered the residence lightly and followed Chu Li to a side room in the eastern corner. Chu Li carefully sized up the 9 people and shook his head. Everyone, please rest here first. You can apologize after you've bowed. After saying that, he ignored her and turned to walk out. Fa Yuan came to the door and smiled. You've completely offended the Emperor. Brother Chu, you must be careful. It doesn't matter. Chu Li smiled. Go in and take a seat. Fa Yuan bowed with pressed palms and led the monks into the main hall. Shui Ling gracefully welcomed them. Her clothes fluttered as she led them to their seats. Fa Yuan's seat was in the main hall. There were 10 tables in the hall, and the noise was endless. The guests at these 10 tables were all of high status. Fa Yuan was led to his table by Shui Ling. There was only 1 person sitting at this table. The other guests had not arrived yet. The person sitting at the table was Zhao Tianxing, a disciple of Green Deer Cliff. When he saw Fa Yuan, the handsome Zhao Tianxing bowed with pressed palms. Fa Yuan bowed in return, then lowered his eyes and began to recite Buddhist scriptures. He knew that Zhao Tianxing's character was too bad. It was better not to interact with him. Out of sight, out of mind. Zhao Tianxing did not let go of this opportunity. He chuckled. Master Fa Yuan, Brother Chu is really lucky with women. Fa Yuan opened his eyes and nodded lightly. Yes. Zhao Tianxing shook his head. You've married the 3rd lady of the Yi public house and the lady of the Rin public house. I wonder which lady of the High Duke's public house he'll marry next. Brother Chu's charm is truly admirable. Fa Yuan glanced at him and shook his head. Love is fate, but it's also a debt. Having too much of it might not be a good thing. I think Brother Chu is a wise man. You won't get involved in any more love debts. This is already troublesome enough. Zhao Tianxing shook his head and said with a smile, You're such a busybody, His Majesty. If the Prince of Fu Dynasty really wants to marry Miss Lu, he could have just paid a visit to ask for her hand in marriage. Why did he have to wait for His Majesty's decree? Fa Yuan said, Miss Lu must have rejected him. Miss Lu refused, but the 3rd prince still wants to marry her. As expected of a prince of the great Fu Dynasty. How domineering. Zhao Tianxing snorted. Fa Yuan nodded. Zhao Tianxing said, However, it's important for a man and a woman to be willing to marry each other. If you insist on marrying Miss Lu by force, isn't that equivalent to robbery? You've gone too far. If I were Chu Li, I definitely wouldn't be able to tolerate this. Fa Yuan smiled. If almsgiver Zhao was Brother Chu, what would you do? Attack the Fu Dynasty directly. Zhao Tianxing scoffed. Brother Chu's martial arts are top-notch. Back then, he defeated the Church of the Divine Blood until they sealed off their mountain. Why would he be afraid of a prince? No matter how strong the prince is, He can't be stronger than the Church of the Divine Blood. The third prince isn't strong, but he has the Fu dynasty's emperor behind him, Fa Yuan said plainly. Zhao Tianxing said, "Will the Fu dynasty's emperor kill Chu Li? That's against the heavenly rules. If Brother Chu dares to touch the third prince, the Fu dynasty's emperor will definitely take action," Fa Yuan said. Zhao Tianxing sighed and nodded. "I don't think there's any good way." Fa Yuan said, "Brother Chu wants to avoid it. As long as you're married and enter Goddess Attraction Mountain, even the Fu dynasty's prince won't dare to cause trouble there." "That's a good idea." Zhao Tianxing nodded, "But it's too weak. I'm forced by the situation. There's no other way." Fa Yuan sighed. "Even someone as strong as Brother Chu can't do anything about it. If it's Brother Zhao, I'm afraid he'll have no choice but to give up or choose to perish together." Zhao Tianxing forced a smile. That's true. He could hear the sharpness in Fa Yuan's words and scoffed to himself. He did not want to invite a rebuff, so he shut his mouth and did not say another word. As time passed, the number of guests in the main hall gradually increased. Only one table was not fully occupied. Everyone looked over. That table was filled with people from the High Duke's public house. Lu Yushu from Ren public house, Zhou Zifeng from Ji public house, and so on. Almost everyone from the 12 High Duke's public houses had come. However, the only one missing was the Yi public house. The Yi public house should be the most present, but they were not there. The auspicious hour had arrived, but the people from the Yi public house had not arrived yet. Chu Li and Lu Yurong appeared in the main hall. He wore a festive red robe, while Lu Yurong wore a phoenix coronet and a red veil that covered her face, revealing only her graceful figure. Everyone knew that the Yi public house would not send anyone. It seemed like the Yi public house objected to Chu Li marrying Lu Yurong. Logically speaking, when Lu Yurong married into the Chu family, she must serve tea to the first wife, Xiao Qi, even if she was the second wife. If Xiao Qi did not show up, it meant that she did not acknowledge Lu Yurong. Since she did not show up in public, it meant that she did not acknowledge Lu Yurong. The auspicious hour has arrived. The MC who was hosting the wedding announced loudly. His loud voice echoed throughout the Chu residence. "Wait!" A deafening shout was heard. Everyone looked toward the entrance of the main hall. A group of protectors in purple surrounded a sturdy young man and strode into the main hall. Chu Li frowned and looked at Tang Yi, the third prince of the Fu dynasty. He asked, "Your Royal Highness, do you want to have a drink at the wedding too?" Tang Yi was dressed in a bright yellow robe, which made him look more graceful and luxurious. He said loudly, "Chu Li, Lu Yurong is my princess." Chu Li laughed. "Your Royal Highness is drunk. You're talking nonsense. I've already proposed to your emperor, and he has agreed." Tang Yi said, "Do you dare to defy the imperial edict? We're not allowed to get married without the imperial edict." Chu Li shook his head. "What if there's an imperial edict?" Tang Yi sneered and slowly took out a golden scroll. Chu Li said, "Even if there's an imperial edict, I can't obey it. You're going to defy the imperial edict because of a woman?" Tang Yi laughed coldly. "Do you know the consequences of defying the imperial edict?" Chu Li said lightly, "The auspicious hour has arrived. Your Royal Highness, please leave. Don't delay my wedding. Please." He raised his hand and gestured for Tang Yi to leave. Tang Yi laughed out loud. "How dare you? I come and go as I please. Since when was it your turn to make decisions for me?" Chu Li frowned. "Your Royal Highness, this is my residence. It's not your place to tell me what to do. You don't want me to personally send you off, do you? You want to fight?" Tang Yi laughed. "Chu Li, you dare to fight?" Chu Li said, "Why not? If your Royal Highness doesn't leave, I'll really fight." "All right, I'd like to see if you dare to fight." Tang Yi smiled. Chu Li suddenly swung his palm. "How dare you?" An elder stepped forward and blocked in front of Tang Yi. He swung his palm. Chapter 33:50. Slap. A crisp slap was heard. Tang Yi covered his face and stared at Chu Li in disbelief. He was a grandmaster, and there were protectors in front of him, but he could not block this slap. This slap came from the sky without any warning. It was too sudden for him to dodge. He was the Fu dynasty's third prince, but he was slapped. It was a great humiliation. He wanted to embarrass Chu Li so that he could not face anyone in public, but he did not expect to be slapped first and become a laughingstock. Boundless anger accumulated and surged in his chest, almost burning him up. His eyes turned red and bloodshot. He stared at Chu Li and waved his hand. "Kill him." "Yes." The 10 protectors shouted. Chu Li sneered. "Your Royal Highness is so mighty." He flashed like a flash of lightning. They did not see Chu Li's movement clearly. He had already circled the 9 protectors, breaking through the limits of human vision and returned to his original position. Bam, 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 bam. The 10 grandmasters fell to the ground, motionless. Chu Li glanced at Tang Yi, who was standing there alone with a stiff expression, and said in a low voice, "Your Royal Highness, you are not welcome here. Please leave. As for these 10 fellows, I don't think you can take them away." "Chu Li, you're more daring than I thought," Tang Yi said slowly. He stared at him like a hungry wolf and said word by word, "Do you think you can fight against the Fu dynasty?" Chu Li shook his head. "I can't fight against the Fu dynasty alone, but your Royal Highness does not represent the entire Fu dynasty. It's better if you don't embarrass yourself in front of me with these protectors of the imperial residence." Tang Yi sneered. "If you kill them, we won't hold back." Chu Li pointed at them. "I didn't kill them. Today is my wedding day. It's not auspicious to see blood. I only crippled their martial arts. I'm sure your Royal Highness won't abandon them. Right? Good, good." Tang Yi nodded. "Chu Li, you crippled 10 of our protectors. I'll cripple 100 of your public house's protectors." Chu Li smiled. "Then we'll wait for your Royal Highness's method. Please go first today." Tang Yi turned his head and scanned the crowd. Everyone glared at him with gloomy expressions. They were extremely disgusted with the 3rd prince of Fu dynasty. No matter how excessive he was, he shouldn't have come to pick a fight at this time and ruined the joyous occasion. This was something that could only be done when there was an irreconcilable blood feud between them. As a dignified prince, it wasn't enough for him to use his power to oppress others, but he was actually so overbearing to this extent. They were all from the martial arts world of the Ji dynasty, so they could empathize with Chu Li. Chu Li had such a reputation, yet he was still treated this way. If they were in his shoes, would their women have been snatched away by him? "All right, very well," Tang Yi sneered. "Looks like the Ji dynasty has grown up." Chu Li frowned. "Your Royal Highness has always been arrogant. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to leave the Ji dynasty? Not everyone in the martial arts world is as considerate of the bigger picture as I am and tolerated your Fu dynasty. At worst, I'll just kill you and escape somewhere else." The expressions of everyone changed slightly, and they were eager to make a move. This was also a way out. If they really killed him and escaped into the deep mountains or forests, they would not be able to find them. Tang Yi sneered and glanced sideways at the crowd. He shook his head. "If you kill me, all of you will be buried with me." Chu Li burst out laughing. "What a joke. Among us, there are people from the 4 major sects and the 12 high dukes' public houses. The Fu dynasty is so overbearing. Do you really want to destroy the Ji dynasty?" Tang Yi glanced sideways at the crowd and sneered. "So what? Even if you're one of the 8 major sects of the Fu dynasty, you'll still die, let alone the 4 major sects of the Ji dynasty. The 12 high dukes' public houses are even more of a joke." Chu Li sighed and shook his head. "Looks like the Ji dynasty is a pushover in the eyes of the Fu dynasty." "That's right," Tang Yi scoffed. "You know this very well. Why do you have to say it out loud and embarrass yourselves?" Slap. Chu Li slapped Tang Yi's face again. Tang Yi immediately rolled away and fell heavily on the ground. Chu Li shook his head. "That's all you've got? Do you really think that I can't do anything to you because you're an enlightened master? Kill me if you have the guts." Tang Yi gritted his teeth and stood up. His expression was steely and his eyes were like torches, as if he wanted to burn Chu Li. "If you don't kill me, I'll definitely kill you." Chu Li nodded. "Then go and ask your father to come. The grandmasters of the Fu dynasty won't be able to kill me." "Chu Li, do you really think that no one can kill you?" Tang Yi gritted his teeth. His heart was burning with anger. He wanted to tear Chu Li into pieces with his own hands and make him beg for death. Even if he was tortured for the rest of his life, he would not be able to get rid of this anger. Chu Li nodded. Yes, the Grandmasters of the Food Dynasty won't be able to kill me. His current cultivation level had reached the peak of the Grandmaster's boundary. It could be said that he was halfway to becoming an enlightened master. There was almost no one below the enlightened master who could rival him. At the end of the day, it was because of the supreme titanium scripture. The rich force that he cultivated was shockingly powerful. Using the rich force to activate his light body technique and palm energy, Tang Ye's protectors, who were all top-notch grandmasters, could not fight back at all. Before they could do anything, they were already crippled. Now that the world was so big, Chu Li was only afraid of enlightened masters. Even those below the enlightened master level could escape unscathed, let alone grandmasters. All right. Tang Yi gritted his teeth. Let's see if I can kill you. Chu Li said, after I get married, I'll be returning to Goddess Attraction Mountain. I'll take my time and enjoy the scenery as I travel. You can send someone to kill me. If you can kill me, I'll consider it your Food Dynasty's capability. The main hall was instantly in an uproar. Chu Li's move was too bold and unscrupulous. Was he not inviting all the masters of the Food Dynasty to kill him? Chu Li raised his voice. Not only the masters of the Food Dynasty's imperial family, but also the masters of the Food Dynasty's martial arts world. Let's see if you have the capability. Chu Li, you're too arrogant. Tang Yi sneered. Do you really think you're invincible? Chu Li said, if there are no enlightened masters, what do I have to fear? All right, I'll definitely kill you. Tang Yi said fiercely. I hope you keep your word and slowly walk back to Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chu Li nodded. I won't travel more than 100 miles in a day. You can come and assassinate me. Brother Chu. Fa Yuan raised his voice. Chu Li smiled. I like to see what makes the Food Dynasty so arrogant. Then wait for your death. Tang Yi turned around and left. Chu Li raised his voice. You don't want these masters anymore? Your Royal Highness is so heartless. Who else will work for you? Why should I worry about not having anyone? Tang Yi disdainfully strode away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. So this is the Food Dynasty's third prince? Really? Brother Chu, you're too? Fa Yuan sighed. This is no different from provoking the entire Food Dynasty. Why bother? Chu Li said, the Food Dynasty is no longer the Food Dynasty of the past. There's no need for everyone to be so afraid. Chapter 33:51. After Tang Ye's incident, the main hall became livelier and more people like Chu Li. Tang Ye's arrogance and belittling of the people of the Ji Dynasty made them angry. It was satisfying to be able to slap him in the face. They knew that if they were in Chu Li's shoes, they would not have dared to do something like that. Chu Li had helped them vent their anger, and they felt exhilarated. The Ji Dynasty had been oppressed by the Food Dynasty for too long, and everyone had lost all hope. Chu Li had reignited their courage. If it were not for the fear of revenge from the Food Dynasty, they would have secretly killed Tang Yi. Chu Li and Lu Yurong quickly bowed, and the banquet started. Chu Li toasted table by table, but no one from the Yi public house appeared. However, now that Tang Ye's incident happened, everyone was excited and their eyes did not stop on this matter. When they saw Chu Li, they toasted and congratulated him. Chu Li had become the representative of the Ji Dynasty's martial arts world. In the evening, after the sunset, everyone returned home. The lights were lit, and the entire Chu residence was bathed in a festive atmosphere. The lights were as bright as day, and the sound of musical instruments could be heard. The people from the New Moon brothel were playing the guzheng and singing in the residence to liven things up. Chu Li came to the courtyard at the back. Lu Yurong had already removed her makeup and was wearing a plain white tunic. She sat quietly in the gazebo on the lake with a pot of wine in her hands. She was lost in thought as she looked at the sparkling surface of the lake. Chu Li came to her side and smiled. Are you tired? Lu Yurong turned her head and looked at him. I've been resting here. You're the one who's tired. Under the light, her face was like white jade. It was warm and crystal clear. It made people's hearts beat faster. Chuli suppressed his thoughts and smiled. This is not tiring. After this, we can rest for a while. You can also cultivate in peace. Cultivating your martial arts is the most important thing. You don't have to care about the affairs of the court anymore. Rest? Lu Yurong shook her head. With Suan around, how can you be free? Once Suan wanted to fight for the throne, Chuli would not be able to escape being busy. He would have to use his brains and strength. Chuli smiled. I don't know if this will work. This is what you like to do. Lu Yurong shook her head and sighed. Chuli smiled without saying a word. He and Lu Yurong had fought for a few rounds and knew each other very well. He knew her temperament, and she knew him very well. Lu Yurong sighed again and said, Are we really going to walk slowly to Goddess Attraction Mountain? Chuli nodded. Lu Yurong said, Too careless. Chuli replied, The martial arts world of the Fu dynasty isn't that scary. I'm going to destroy their deterrence in order to incite the will of the martial arts world of the Ji dynasty to resist. If they really resist, I'm afraid that there will be countless casualties. Lu Yurong frowned. It will hurt the vitality of the Ji dynasty. Chu Li said, The purpose of this trip to Goddess Attraction Mountain is to weaken the Fu dynasty's vitality. We'll cripple every single one of them. No matter how many martial arts masters the Fu dynasty has, they won't be able to withstand this kind of damage. Once they're weakened, the Ji dynasty will have a chance. You're so confident. Do you have a trump card? Lu Yurong tilted her head and looked at him. She knew Chu Li very well. Chu Li had always prioritized safety over anything he did. He would not be greedy and take risks. Once he did something, he was usually very confident of success. Therefore, even though it seemed like he was provoking the martial arts world of the Fu dynasty, he must have been confident. Chu Li smiled. It's the limb of God. Lu Yurong shook her head. Sometimes, the limb of God was not enough to rely on. There were treasured weapons that could restrain the limb of God. Chu Li would not rely on this alone, so he must have another trump card. However, judging from Chu Li's expression, he would not reveal it. Are you staying here tonight? Lu Yurong was a little nervous, but she asked casually. Chu Li shook his head. I'm returning to the public house. Lu Yurong smiled faintly. Are you afraid that Shao Qi will be angry? Chu Li nodded and admitted it. Lu Yurong chuckled. Shao Qi is really good at controlling her husband. Chu Li scoffed. Be careful. If there's any danger, just crush the jade talisman. I'm leaving. After he said that, he glided out of the backyard and flew over the wall. As Lu Yurong watched his silhouette disappear, she let out a long sigh. Chu Li was really heartless. It seemed like he was afraid that she would have some improper thoughts, so he left her behind and went there. She shook her head and laughed. What was wrong with her? Why did she suddenly become so sentimental? She should not be thinking about these things now. Instead, she should be thinking about how to improve her cultivation level and how to take revenge on Tang Yi and Lung Wufeng. When she made up her mind, the waves in her heart disappeared and she regained her calmness. She smiled and looked at the lake. From today onward, she would leave the High Duke's public house and Fairy's capital. She would live in Goddess Attraction Mountain and even wander around. This new life should be interesting. She had long wanted to break free and live freely, and this time, she could finally do it. When he returned to the High Duke's public house's Jade Guardian Island, he quickly disappeared and reappeared in an inn. This was the largest inn in a small city. The place he was at was a small courtyard. The courtyard was elegant, and there were 2 peach trees planted there. The peach trees were blooming with flowers, and a faint fragrance was wafting out from them. Shao Qi was standing under a peach tree. Her clothes were as white as snow, and her body was as flawless as white jade. She was quietly admiring the moon, and when she saw Chu Li, she turned to look at him. Her eyes were as bright as the stars. Chu Li went forward and grabbed her hand. The moon in the sky isn't that round. Shao Qi pulled her hand back. Why aren't you accompanying the bride in the public house? What are you doing here? Chu Li held her soft, cool, and delicate hand tightly. He smiled. The bride is not as important as the wife. I think you should stop cultivating the regal sword scripture. That won't do. Shao Qi shook her head. Chu Li said, the best way is to cultivate it in the Grandmaster's boundary. It's a martial art from the Grandmaster's boundary, so it's more suitable to cultivate there. If you cultivate it in this world, there will inevitably be some consequences. What consequences? Xiao Qi scoffed. Chu Li smiled. Like the wife, there will be consequences. What do you mean? Xiao Qi rolled her eyes. I've already allowed you to marry another woman. Isn't that enough? Chu Li chuckled. He knew that Xiao Qi was happy that he appeared at this time, but it was difficult for her to show her happiness. It was rare for her to joke with him, and her emotions had been suppressed by the regal sword scripture. The wife occasionally feels apathetic, as if she doesn't fit in with this world and wants to leave. This is the harm of the regal sword scripture. Chu Li shook his head. Only after experiencing life and death can this feeling be dispelled. After dying once, one's love for life would become stronger, and it would be able to dispel this strange sense of alienation. Although Xiao Qi had experienced danger, she had never truly experienced death, so her state of mind could not resist the regal sword scripture. He had been pondering over the regal sword scripture and deciphered it, treating it as his rival in love. Only by subduing the regal sword scripture would Xiao Qi truly belong to him. In terms of understanding the regal sword scripture, he was one level higher than Xiao Qi. The process of ascending to the Grandmaster's boundary was the process of dying. Once one reached the Grandmaster's boundary, one would have a better understanding of life, and the cultivation of the regal sword scripture would be smooth and rapid. Xiao Qi said, I feel like I'm getting better, and my cultivation level is getting deeper. Chu Li shook his head. It's difficult to become an enlightened master by cultivating the regal sword scripture, so you can't count on it. Why find a way to become an enlightened master? You can just follow me. Why take this risk? As he spoke, he reached out to hold her waist. Chapter 33:52. Are there really more than 100 masters? Lu Yurong's silver chopsticks stopped in midair as she asked him in surprise. Chu Li nodded. Lu Yurong frowned and said, if they really send out 100 masters to deal with you, it seems like the Fu dynasty will definitely kill you. She felt that it would be very difficult for a prince to command more than 100 grandmasters. Moreover, these grandmasters were not ordinary masters, or else they would not have dared to face Chu Li. Chu Li's reputation in the Fu dynasty was like the sun at high noon, and his deterrence was extremely strong. Those who dared to come here to kill Chu Li all had some sort of confidence. There were not many masters like this in the Fu dynasty. She felt that Tang Yu would not be able to mobilize 100 of them, so there must be other forces taking advantage of the situation to stir up trouble and make things difficult for Chu Li at the same time. Chu Li smiled. That's more like it. It's a pity that there are only around 100 of them. Is 100 too few? Lu Yurong said in annoyance. Looks like we'll have to hide for a while. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. How can I not enjoy this feast? Lu Yurong looked at him with a frown. Chu Li said, don't worry, I'm confident. Lu Yurong nodded. If he said so, it meant that he was confident. The two of them continued to eat. Chu Li said, stay here and don't go out later. You don't need my help? Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li shook his head. Actually, I've set up a formation here. If they dare to come over, I'll use the formation to trap them. No wonder. Lu Yurong suddenly realized. Chu Li said, no matter how many of them there are, once they're trapped in the formation, there's nothing they can do. We could take them down one by one. Then be careful, Lu Yurong said. The two of them talked as they ate. After eating for a while, there was still no movement. Dusk slowly rose, and the two of them chatted as they warmed themselves by the fire. They talked about the fairies' capital. What's your relationship with the Holy Church of Light? Lu Yurong asked curiously. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. He did not expect Lu Yurong to be able to find out. Lu Yurong asked, what is your relationship with Sun Minghua? Chu Li stared at the flames without saying a word. Lu Yurong stared at him with her bright eyes. The two of you have worked together many times. How could someone like her join forces with you so easily? There must be some secret. Tell me about it. Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong scoffed. Don't tell me you sided with Sun Minghua. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Lu Yurong's curiosity was piqued by his silence. Sun Mingwei could be considered a real big shot. She was second only to one person and above countless others. Although Chu Li was strong, she should not have taken him seriously. Chu Li raised his head and looked at the opposite side. They're finally here. Lu Yurong said, "One last question. How did you know that they would set up an ambush here and set up a formation in advance?" Although she didn't understand array formations, she knew that setting up an array formation wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. Even with the help of array talismans, it would still take a long time to calculate and set it up. Array talismans couldn't be set up immediately. Chu Li replied, "I guessed it." Lu Yurong frowned and glared at him. This was the question she was most curious about. When Chu Li mentioned that there was a formation just now, she had her doubts. Could it be that he really had a divine foresight and was able to predict that a master from the Fu dynasty was lying in ambush here? Or did he have a spy in the Fu dynasty? She was more inclined to believe the latter. She had also planted spies in the Fu dynasty, but unfortunately, she had left the secret guardians hall and could no longer use them. However, because their ranks were too low, they did not know about this operation at all. The sound of clothes fluttering could be heard. Chu Li said, "Go in first." "Let's take a look first," Lu Yurong said. She was very curious and wanted to see who the masters were. Chu Li said no more. More than 100 people had already surrounded the dilapidated temple. There were 2 layers of people inside and outside to prevent Chu Li from escaping. Chu Li handed over the silver chopsticks and slowly stood up. Lu Yurong put the 2 pairs of silver chopsticks back in the box and closed the lid. Then, she stood up and looked at the crowd. "You're Chu Li?" A square-faced elder in purple asked in a deep voice. He was skinny but tall. His bones were bony, and he had the temperament of a skinny tiger. His eyes were as sharp as swords and exuded a cold aura. No one dared to look at him directly. "Yes." Chu Li nodded and glanced at the crowd. "Are all of you here to kill me? Tell me your names so that you don't become a nameless ghost." "There's no need for that." The square-faced elder in purple shook his head. "You're going to die anyway. It doesn't matter if you know our names or not. We need to send both of you on your way as soon as possible. You can only blame yourselves for offending the Fu dynasty." Chu Li smiled. Does a lustful prince represent the Fu dynasty? Although the prince has a bad character, he represents the Fu dynasty. The elder in purple said in a deep voice. Chu Li smiled faintly. "You're a protector of the imperial residence, right?" "That's right." The elder in purple nodded. Chu Li shook his head. "You're a top-notch master, but you're willing to be ordered around by the imperial residents. No wonder you said that. It's really disappointing. It seems like the Fu dynasty has no more people." Chu Li, shut up. A middle-aged man in blue said. "Whether it's the imperial residence or the martial arts world of the Fu dynasty, they all want to kill you. You don't have to waste time. No one will come to save you, and they can't." Chu Li shook his head and smiled. That might not be the case. As he spoke, he suddenly took out a jade talisman and threw it into the sky. Everyone immediately took a step back. The jade talisman shot a ray of light in the sky and spread out like a tide. The scenery around them changed from a pine forest to a peach forest. The peach blossoms bloomed and the fragrance wafted. "Formation!" someone shouted. When they looked again, they could no longer see Chu Li. Chu Li's voice rang in everyone's ears. "Since you're here to kill me, don't blame me for being ruthless." As soon as he finished speaking, a shrill scream was heard. Everyone frowned and felt a chill in their hearts. These top-notch masters were all tough men. Even if they were injured, they would not scream like this. It was too embarrassing. Even if they were in pain, they would grit their teeth and groan. To scream like this, the injuries they suffered were definitely not ordinary. "The 3 of you joined forces," the elder in purple shouted. He realized that his voice could not be heard. He could only hear Chu Li's voice and the screams of his companions. Another scream was heard. Everyone's hearts turned colder, and they stood still, not daring to move. "Where's the formation-breaking talisman?" the elder in purple roared. Bang, 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 bang. After a few muffled sounds, everyone's vision suddenly changed. The scenery changed again, and they returned to the pine forest. They saw the ruined temple surrounded in the center, and their 3 companions lying on the ground. They also saw Chu-Li, who was standing beside the 3 of them. Chu-Li looked at them with a smile. Everyone's eyes were cold. They stared at him like hungry wolves, as if they wanted to swallow him whole. The elder in purple shook his head. Chu-Li, you're amazing to be able to set up a formation here in advance. But we're not weak either. We've prepared enough formation-breaking talismans. Let's see if your formation is better or our formation-breaking talismans are better. Huh? He looked up and laughed. Everyone laughed along and stared at Chu-Li mockingly. Lu Yurong, who was standing at the entrance of the temple, frowned. Her white clothes fluttered in the wind as she looked at Chu-Li with watery eyes. Chu-Li sighed and shook his head. Chapter 33:53. He took out another jade talisman from his inner pocket and tossed it into the air. The jade talisman lit up in the sky and turned into a ray of light that spread like ripples on the surface of a lake. The scenery in front of them changed again, and they were back in the peach blossom forest. The fragrance of the flowers was intoxicating. It was so real that they could not help but admire the power of this formation. Formation-breaking talisman. The elder in purple shouted again. Bang, 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 bang. There was another muffled sound. The scenery in front of them changed again, and they were back in the pine forest. They saw Chu-Li still standing in the same spot, smiling at them. The elder in purple laughed. Chu-Li, what else do you have? Come on, come again. Let's see if you have more talismans, or we have more formation-breaking talismans. Chu-Li nodded. Let's give it a try. He took out 10 jade talismans from his inner pocket. They shone beautifully in the dim light. Everyone's expression changed, and their hearts sank. So many talismans. What was this guy doing? Why did he prepare so many talismans? Did he expect to have formation-breaking talismans? Lu Yurong knew that Chu-Li must have expected this and prepared so many. Of course, it could also be a bluff to scare them. Let's see if you have enough formation-breaking talismans. Chu-Li smiled. The elder in purple scoffed. Let's see if it's enough. Show them. The 2 middle-aged men in purple took out more than 10 jade talismans. Their talismans were far more than Chu-Li's talismans. They seemed to have the upper hand. Chu-Li shook his head. 1 talisman of mine can be exchanged for 4 of your formation-breaking talismans. Because this formation was set up in a large area, for formation-breaking talismans were needed to be activated at the same time. Although he had fewer talismans, he was still better than them. The elder in purple sneered. Do you think it's all we have? Again. As soon as he finished speaking, another 2 middle-aged men in purple took out their formation-breaking talismans. Each of them had 10 talismans. Chu-Li frowned and shook his head. Formation-breaking talismans are extremely precious. How can we have so many? You're just making up the numbers. The formation-breaking talismans are precious, but what if they're disciples of the Great One Palace? The elder in purple asked. Chu-Li looked at the 4 middle-aged men in purple. They nodded slowly and put the talismans back into their robes. A purple-robed middle-aged man cupped his fists and said, Great One Palace's Zhu Li greets young Master Chu. Fang Qiming of the Great One Palace greets young Master Chu. Pu Jihua of the Great One Palace greets young Master Chu. Chu-Li frowned as he looked at them. I didn't expect the Great One Palace to come after me too. Young Master Chu's name resounds like thunder in my ears. I'm here to learn from you. Chu-Li said faintly, Looks like the Great One Palace has put in a lot of effort this time. I can't believe you brought out such a formation-breaking talisman. If we can get rid of young Master Chu, what's the harm in giving us double the amount of formation-breaking talismans? Zhu Li said solemnly. Chu-Li nodded. If that's the case, let's see who's better. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw the talisman again. Stop him. The purple-robed old man shouted. A wave of hidden weapons shrouded Chu-Li. They were all prepared and wanted to shoot Chu-Li. Before the jade talisman even reached the sky, it suddenly burst forth with a dazzling brilliance. Everyone couldn't help but close their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, the scenery in front of them changed again. Ah, ah, ah. Suddenly, screams were heard. When the purple-robed old man heard this, he immediately felt that something was wrong. He quickly shouted, "Hero Zhu." Unfortunately, his voice could not be heard. The formation-breaking talisman that was released earlier was not released by him, but by the Great One Palace disciples themselves. Coincidentally, his shout and the talisman were released almost at the same time, so it sounded like they were following his orders. Hero Fong? The purple-robed old man did not give up. He shouted again, "Hero Pooh." Unfortunately, his surroundings were silent, and there was no sound. He was in complete silence, as if everything had stopped, including time. There was no wind, no sound, and he was completely isolated. Ah! Another scream was heard. The purple-robed old man was shocked. He frowned and did not say anything. Could the people outside hear his movements? Otherwise, how could he hear the screams? Then, he shouted a few more times, but there was no response. He had figured it out. Only when Chuli attacked would there be any movement. Otherwise, he would be trapped by the formation and would not move. However, after so long, the formation-breaking talisman had not been activated. It was obvious that the 3 Great One Palace disciples had been ambushed and could not activate the talisman. His heart sank when he thought of this. If this was really the case, his group would be trapped in the formation and be at his mercy. It was terrifying. At this thought, he took a deep breath, and his body seemed to become transparent. With a flash, the scenery in front of him suddenly changed and returned to the pine forest. Then he dashed out. Bang, 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 bang. It was as if an invisible force was hitting him. He gritted his teeth, and his eyes were bloodshot. Like a wild boar, he charged in a straight line towards the temple. He knew that it must be the center of the formation. As long as he caught the woman, he could force Chu Li to stop. Once the formation was stopped, everyone would have a chance to kill Chu Li, even if he was a powerful person who had forced the Church of the Divine Blood to seal off the mountain. His blood was boiling, and he was about to spit blood at any time. However, he gritted his teeth and rushed forward. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the ruined temple and crashed into Lu Yurong, who was standing at the entrance. Bang! Lu Yurong lightly slapped down with her palm, but it was like a giant hammer that sent the purple-robed old man flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. His eyes rolled back, and he fainted, falling into the formation again. Chuli appeared beside him and looked down at him. He smiled at Lu Yurong. Good palm technique. Lu Yurong's chest rose and fell violently. She let out a long sigh and shook her head. There really are hidden talents here. She had used all her strength to break out of the restraints of the formation. Moreover, she was the leader, and her cultivation level was higher than hers. If it was not for the secret skill that she used to break the restraints of the formation, it would have been difficult for her palm to succeed. Chuli said, "Next time, you must avoid it. Don't force it." "I know," Lu Yurong said impatiently. "Am I that useless?" Chuli smiled. "These are all desperados. There is no need to fight with them. It is not worth it to hurt yourself." "All right." Lu Yurong smiled. Chuli rushed into the formation again. Then, a muffled sound was heard. He used the power of the formation to attack the grandmasters one by one. These masters were all tensed up, ready for a sneak attack at any time. However, they could not defend themselves. The formation deceived their senses. Chuli's fists and palms were extremely heavy. Even if they reacted, they would not be able to withstand his palm. He used the rich inner energy cultivated by the supreme titanium scripture. These people who were trapped in the formation could not withstand a single blow. Chuli first took care of the most difficult ones, then the weaker ones. In the blink of an eye, more than 50 people were crippled. Bang, 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 bang. The muffled sound was heard again. Then, the formation was broken again. 52 silhouettes flew out. Before Chuli's formation talisman could light up again, they were already out of the pine forest. Chuli shook his head. Lu Yurong frowned and sighed. It was such a waste. 52 silhouettes stood outside the pine forest and stared at Chuli coldly. Chuli smiled. "Do you want to continue?" Chuli, You are just relying on the formation. A middle-aged man in a blue robe shook his head. I am Li Yaoyong from the Sword Moon sect. Chapter 3354. Lu Yurong scoffed. 100 of you against one. Let's not say it's an unfair win, but we're using formations to help. What a joke! How dare you say that? Li Yaoyong frowned at Lu Yurong and said coldly, We're relying on martial arts, not formations. All right. Chu Li nodded and smiled. Then let's compete with martial arts. Come here, Li Yaoyong said. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. I won't go over. If you want to fight, come over. I'm not the one who wants to kill you. You're the one who wants to kill me. Let's drag this out. As he spoke, he sat by the campfire and drank from the water bag beside him. He kicked the elder in purple away. The elder in purple floated up like a rag doll and landed far away with a bang. There were a few stones under him. He twitched a few times but did not move again. The elder's cultivation level was crippled and his acupuncture points were sealed. He could not move and could only endure the pain. Compared to the ants gnawing on his meridians, being hit by the stones was nothing. He now knew why the injured screamed. It was an unbearable feeling. It was numb, itchy, and painful. He wanted to tear himself into pieces to relieve the itch. Chu Li was angry that they came to kill him. Although he could avoid the death penalty, he could not escape punishment. Not only would his martial arts be crippled, but he would also have to suffer. They would want to commit suicide in the end. Unfortunately, their acupuncture points were sealed. They could not commit suicide even if they wanted to. Lu Yurong sat beside him and handed him a fresh fruit. It was red and looked very tempting. Chu Li took it and took 2 bites. Then, he leisurely looked at the crowd outside the pine forest and shook his head with a smile. All of you can wait outside. I'll activate the blessing formation later and see how many formation-breaking talismans you have. He took out a pile of formation-breaking talismans from the bag beside him. He picked them up one by one and looked at them carefully under the sunset. He put them aside and looked at the next one. He seemed to be checking the quality of the formation-breaking talismans. He picked them up and looked at them carefully under the sunset. He put them aside and looked at the next one. Every formation-breaking talisman was very precious. This time, the Great One Palace had sacrificed a lot to take out so many formation-breaking talismans. It was unknown how many years it would be before they would use them again. In the end, Chu Li had benefited from it. Chu Li picked through the items and finally kept 10 of them. He stuffed them into his inner pocket and pointed at the rest. You keep them. You might be able to break a small formation occasionally, but you won't be able to break a big formation. Lu Yurong put them away with a smile. Not to mention how precious the materials used to make these jade talismans were. They were all made of the finest jade. Any one of them could be exchanged for a lot of things. 52 people took a deep breath and did not approach. They were determined not to be fooled. Let's go. We should leave first, Li Yaoyong said in a low voice. Everyone nodded, feeling that this was the only way. Once they got close to the pine forest, he would definitely set up a new array formation. Against him, formation-breaking talismans would not be that useful. If they hadn't caught him off guard, they wouldn't have been able to break his array formation. Watching them leave, Lu Yurong frowned and said, This is troublesome. They will definitely follow us like hungry wolves staring at us. Once we make a mistake, they will deal a fatal blow. Chu Li sized up the 52 masters who were gradually leaving. Lu Yurong said, What's worse is that they might not be able to set up a formation. Chu Li said, Don't worry. There are no formations ahead. Formations are not that easy to set up. Formations were all about talent. There were only a few formation masters in the world. Moreover, formations consume too much energy. Once trapped in a formation, there would be no time to cultivate. Most of the time, their martial arts would not be strong enough to participate in such things. Lu Yurong said, The power of a formation is really strong. But you were able to kill one with one palm. That's quite shocking. She once again experienced Chu Li's power. These masters who dared to kill Chu Li were not weak. They were the top group of grandmasters. Yet, they could not even block a palm or a punch from him. It was clear how big the gap between their cultivation levels was. Chu Li's cultivation level was unfathomable. Chu smiled and shook his head. The omniscient mirror kept an eye on the 52 masters. Watching them leave the pine forest, they arrived at the place where they were lying in ambush. They felt that it was the safest place. When they arrived at the pine forest halfway up the mountain, they let out a long sigh of relief. They could finally relax and relax. This Chu is more powerful than the rumors say. Someone shook his head and sighed. The more powerful he is, the more we have to kill him. Otherwise, if he becomes our enlightened master, the food dynasty will lose face. That's true. He must die. He thinks we're doing this because of the third prince. He must die no matter what. If he doesn't die, the food dynasty's dignity will be in jeopardy. How do we kill him now? Why don't we get more masters here? In my opinion, we should hire a formation master. We used the formation breaking talisman incorrectly. The people from the Great One Palace were too careless. The Great One Palace is used to being arrogant. They think that with the formation breaking talisman, they're always successful. This time, we'll teach them a lesson. It's better not to say that. Chu must die. If we can't kill him, we won't be able to face anyone. It seems like we can't fight him head on. Someone suggested, send someone to disturb him so that he can't rest. We'll take turns to rest. We'll attack when he's exhausted. He has a formation to protect him. We have the formation breaking talisman. All right. Everyone quickly came up with a plan and began to rest. They rested and prepared to harass Chu and Lu Yuron. Lu Yuron was still talking when Chu suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he appeared beside the 52 masters. The formation talisman had already been broken, and a dazzling light burst out. Everyone involuntarily closed their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, the scenery had changed. The pine forest had turned into an apricot forest. The fragrance of apricot flowers filled the air. The middle-aged man with the formation-breaking talisman waved his long sword with all his might. He knew that Chu's target was him. Unfortunately, there was no one around to help him. He was not confident that he could kill Chu alone. He could only activate his secret skill. The light from his sword suddenly exploded like lightning. He took out the formation-breaking talisman with his left hand and was about to crush it. He only had one last formation-breaking talisman left. Ding! Suddenly, a fist hit his long sword. Although he used his secret skill and doubled his strength, the fist force from the sword still numbed his body and rendered him unable to move. It was as if Chu had stepped out of thin air and gently waved his hand. His body completely stiffened. His dantian was broken, and his cultivation level flowed like water. He could not help but let out a scream. His internal organs were numb and itchy. He wanted to reach out and scratch them, but his acupuncture points were sealed. He could only scream to relieve the strange pain. Chu reached out and pried the man's fingers away. He took the formation-breaking talisman and shook his head. It's a pity that I couldn't use it. The middle-aged man stared at him fiercely. He was angry and unwilling. Chu shook his head and smiled. Don't be so careless next time, he said as he stuffed the formation-breaking talisman back into his pocket. He shook his head and disappeared again. The middle-aged man was furious. He heard a series of screams. He knew that people had fallen into Chu's hands one after another. P.S. Update complete. I'm finally done. I didn't delay everyone from watching the gala. Happy New Year. I wish everyone good luck in the new year. May everyone be healthy and happy. Chapter 3355. This time, Chu successfully crippled 52 people. Even with the power of the formation, he still felt tired after a few moves. But only crippling their martial arts is considered light. Chu looked at his clothes, then his aura, and hesitated. Is it Goddess Attraction Mountain? Brother Chu, I am Dong Jinshin. The man in yellow closed fist saluted. Greetings, Brother Dong. Chu sighed and closed fist saluted. I didn't expect Brother Dong to come. You are a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. I can't just sit back and do nothing. Dong Jinshin scoffed and scanned the crowd. These guys are getting bolder. As an inner disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain, Chu represented the face of Goddess Attraction Mountain. These guys did not care about Goddess Attraction Mountain at all. More than 100 top-notch masters besieged him. They really wanted to give Goddess Attraction Mountain a show of strength. Chu Li smiled. They're not dealing with a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain, but Chu Li from the Ji dynasty. Not necessarily. Dong Jianxin scoffed. Brother Chu, you are too naive. Who can guess what these guys are thinking? But you are a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. How can you be killed by these guys? Chu Li nodded and said no more. In just a few words, he had already grasped Dong Jianxin's temperament. This brother Dong was not easy to talk to. He was a bit stiff and stubborn. It was best to go along with what he said. He smiled. Brother Dong, this is my wife, Lu Yurong. She just got married. New wife? Dong Jianxin closed fist saluted Lu Yurong and looked at Chu Li with dissatisfaction. Brother Chu, it is normal to be young and romantic. But you are not normal. You are a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chu Li smiled. Yes. Dong Jianxin scoffed. Disciples of Goddess Attraction Mountain must focus on cultivation. Don't be distracted by matters between men and women. Yes. Chu Li nodded and smiled. But I can't control my emotions. As a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain, you will face more temptations in the future. If you can't control yourself, you will be in trouble in the future. Dong Jianxin scoffed. Let's go. There is nothing to see here. He slowly walked around the people on the ground and memorized everyone's faces. He shook his head and said, Fortunately, not all 7 major sects are here. Chu Li said, the people from the White Lotus Palace and Stargazing Pavilion didn't come. It's not strange that the White Palace didn't come. Dong Jianxin snorted. But the people of the Stargazing Pavilion didn't come. That's very unusual. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and made a questioning face. Dong Jian said in his heart, this kind of thing used to be presided over by the Stargazing Pavilion. They have the art of stargazing. They can clearly see through the mysteries of heaven. They can calculate the opponent's position and how to respond. It can be said that there is no mistake in 100 cases. I don't know why they didn't come this time. That's weird. However, Chu Li knew the reason. It wasn't that the Stargazing Pavilion didn't want to come, but it was because they didn't dare to. He had the Starstone, the Heavenly Heart art was perfect, and the Heaven-peering art was at an extremely high level. The Stargazing Pavilion probably couldn't calculate his background and didn't dare to come. The Stargazing Pavilion was a sect that knew how to seek fortune and avoid calamity. Since they could not predict it, they would naturally not participate in it. This time, they were lucky to have escaped the calamity. Otherwise, he would have taken care of them. Chu Li said, maybe they're afraid of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Dong Jianxin curled his thick lips and said disdainfully, they've always been unconvinced of us and have always been restless. Now that they have this opportunity to humiliate Goddess Attraction Mountain, they won't let it go. Chu Li smiled. Senior Brother Dong, I've always felt that Goddess Attraction Mountain status is extraordinary and respected by others. If it wasn't for Senior Brother, Goddess Attraction Mountain would have been swallowed by them long ago. Dong Jianxin laughed coldly. That's why, as a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain, we can't relax, or else this incident will happen again. Chu Li nodded slowly. Dong Jian said, this is your first lesson since entering Goddess Attraction Mountain. You should know the situation of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Now let's go back. Yes. Chu Li fist saluted. The 3 of them turned and left, disappearing from the sight of the people lying on the ground in the blink of an eye. After the formation was removed, they could see each other, and their voices mixed together. Screams and screams rang out, as if they were in hell, sending chills down their spines. Goddess Attraction Mountain the night was hazy, and a bright moon hung high in the sky, slowly rotating like a jade plate. Standing on top of a palace in Goddess Attraction Mountain, Lu Yurong looked up at the bright moon, her mind at ease. Looking at the bright moon from where she stood, the moon was exceptionally close, exceptionally big, and even more pure and flawless. The moonlight shone on Goddess Attraction Mountain as if it was solid, and it felt cool when it fell on her body. Chu Li glided to her side and smiled. Can't sleep? Lu Yurong turned to look at him. How long do you think I'll be staying here? Is a lifetime? Chu Li shook his head. I'll stay here for a while and lie low for a while. Once it's over, I can leave the mountain. But I still have to hide. This kind of life is too depressing. I know myself. Lu Yurong shook her head gently. A gust of wind blew, and her white robe fluttered. I can't take it anymore. Chu Li smiled. Then what do you want? Kill Tang Yi? I can't kill him. Lu Yurong sighed. Chu Li thought for a while. Cultivate your martial arts first. Goddess Attraction Mountain is a holy place for cultivation, and others can't get even if they want it. This is your opportunity. Cultivate well, and when your martial arts are strong enough, you can settle the score with Tang Yi. I don't dare to kill him. Lu Yurong looked angry. If she killed Tang Yi, she would become a sinner of the Ji dynasty, and the Fu dynasty would definitely seek revenge from the Ji dynasty. Chu Li shook his head. It's not necessary to kill him to solve the problem. We can use other methods, such as humiliating or torturing him. Lu Yurong pondered for a while, and suddenly smiled. She shook her head. I'm in a dead end. All right, I'll go into isolated cultivation. Chu Li smiled. I'll also go into isolated cultivation for a while. When we're done, we'll find trouble with Tang Yi. Chapter 3356. Imperial Residence of King An Tianshu Courtyard. Co Shi was dressed in white and was slowly practicing her fist technique, activating her vigor and strengthening her body. She cultivated the Heavenly Heart technique, which focused on her spirit and senses. It did not benefit her body much. She usually practiced the Nourishing Fist technique, so her movements were slow and relaxed. Her apricot gown fluttered as Su Ru glided over and smiled. Second lady, there's news about Chu Li. Oh, tell me about it, Co Shi scoffed. This groom must be very proud of himself, right? This time, he really made a name for himself. Su Ru pursed her lips and smiled with a proud expression. I guess no one would dare to provoke him anymore. Say it. Co Shi stopped her fist technique, and Lu Su handed her a towel. The three of them came to the gazebo, and Lu Su served them tea. Su Ru waved her hand to indicate that she did not want it. She sat in front of Co Shi and smiled. More than 100. Master's Junior Chu's feet. Chu Li looked up at him. Zhou Jie smiled. One person killed 100 people. He really did not embarrass Goddess Attraction Mountain. Master is very happy. Chu Li smiled. I use some tricks. It's not worth mentioning. How is it not worth mentioning? Zhou Jie smiled. If it were me, I wouldn't have that ability. Master's Junior Chu is indeed Master's Junior Chu. Deep down, he still hated Chu Li, but at the same time, he admired him. He felt that Chu Li was a true opponent, and he needed to treat him seriously. Respecting an opponent like Chu Li was equivalent to respecting himself, so he did not need to suppress his emotions and was able to treat him calmly. Chu Li smiled and did not say much. Zhou Jie said, but I heard something. Chu Li looked up at him. Tell me about it. Zhou Jie said, I heard from Tang Zhao that the Fu dynasty has already sent their troops. Chu Li frowned. Zhou Jie nodded. Yes, they're sending their troops to the Ji dynasty. How is that possible? Chu Li frowned in confusion. The Fu dynasty rarely sent their troops. They usually stirred up the other 4 countries to kill each other so they could reap the benefits. They did not need to do anything themselves and often secretly manipulated the situation of the war. Zhou Jie said, what Tang Zhao said should be correct. This time they might have angered the Fu dynasty. If they don't teach the Ji dynasty a lesson, the Fu dynasty's prestige will be lost, and they will lose their deterrence towards the other 4 countries. Send troops. Chu Li shook his head. Zhou Jie smiled and said, but we don't have to worry. Even if a war breaks out, it won't be a war. It's impossible for them to annihilate the Ji dynasty. That's not in line with the Fu dynasty's plans. They're just giving the Ji dynasty a little bit of a show of strength and, at the same time, intimidate the other 3 countries. Chu Li nodded slowly. However, his heart sank slightly. Since he wanted to intimidate them, he naturally had to give it his all. He did not know how many soldiers the Ji dynasty would lose, and it would be his fault. Zhou Jie said, Marshal Uncle Chu, you don't have to feel guilty. Fights and reunions are common. Even without martial Uncle Chu, a fight is inevitable every few years. Chu Li forced a smile. Have they already sent their troops? Yes. Zhou Jie nodded. Chu Li pushed the food away, put down his silver chopsticks, and walked out. Zhou Jie hurriedly said, Marshal Uncle Chu, Master has already gone into seclusion. Chu Li waved his hand and continued to walk out. He knew that the disciples of the goddess Attraction Mountain were free and could come and go as they pleased. Since Zhou Dunli and Dong Jianxin were both in seclusion, he could directly leave. He thought about it and glided to Lu Yurong's courtyard. Lu Yurong was practicing the Empyrean fairy palm in the courtyard. Her whole body was like a piece of white jade, flowing with a warm brilliance. When she saw Chu Li, her bright eyes looked over, cold and emotionless. She was still immersed in the Empyrean fairy power. After a while, she stopped. When she came to Chu Li, she had already returned to normal, and her eyes were warm. What's the urgent matter? If it was not urgent, he would not have disturbed her cultivation. Chapter 33:57. The 9 maids were already in her courtyard. They were only 2 days behind. A maid served tea and quietly retreated. Chu Li took a sip of tea and sighed. I've heard news that the Fu dynasty has sent troops to attack the Ji dynasty. I'm guessing that they've already started fighting. I'm going back to check if the news is true. Send troops. Lu Yurong was shocked, her mouth slightly agape. Chu Li nodded. Lu Yurong frowned and said, No way. How could they possibly fight? Chu Li said, Maybe he wants to rebuild his prestige. This time, more than 100 people were crippled by me. It's too embarrassing. Or maybe he already had this intention and was just waiting for an opportunity. Now, the opportunity has finally presented itself. What is the Fu dynasty trying to do? Lu Yurong frowned. I don't think they should send out their troops just to establish their authority. Chu Li shook his head. This is very important to them. It concerns their control over the 4 nations. Lu Yurong sighed and smiled bitterly. I didn't expect such a big thing to happen. What can you do even if you go back? Don't tell me you're going to the border to fight. Chu Li said, I have to do my part. You might not be able to contribute when you return. Lu Yurong shook her head and said, You might be suspected instead. After all, you're now a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain and a member of the Fu dynasty. How are you going to behave? Chu Li frowned. I'm considered a public enemy of the Fu dynasty. Lu Yurong said, I don't think Goddess Attraction Mountain is allowed to intervene in this kind of battle. Chu Li replied, Goddess Attraction Mountain can do whatever they want. After all, no one dares to provoke them openly, and we're not afraid of them, even if we attack them in secret. You continue to cultivate. I'll go back and take a look. No, it's hard for me to calm down here. Chu Li waved his hand and said, I'll be back as soon as I can. Even if I attack, it won't take too long. You'll only be a burden if you follow me. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes at him. He was being too direct. Chu Li sighed. How about this? I'll go back for a while. Wait, Lu Yurong scoffed. In terms of martial arts, I'm no match for you. But if we're talking about information, I think I can still be of some help. Chu Li thought about it and nodded. All right then, let's go back together. Lu Yurong said, Let's return to the Ren public house. All right, Chu Li nodded. He grabbed Lu Yurong's sleeve and disappeared in a flash. The next moment, he appeared in the backyard of the Ren public house. The noon sun shone brightly, and the whole back garden shone brightly. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, and a delicate fragrance assailed one's nostrils. Lu Yurong clapped. Immediately, a maid appeared. Mississippi, Chu Li asked, Where's my big brother? Young master has just returned. The maid was delicate and graceful. She answered respectfully and looked at Chu Li curiously. Lu Yurong said, Invite big brother over. Yes, the pretty maid replied. Lu Yurong said, Don't spread the news of my return. Yes. The pretty maidservant left quietly. The two of them had just sat in the gazebo when the sound of hurried footsteps rang out. Lu Yulo strode over. As soon as he stepped into the back garden, he looked around. When he saw Lu Yurong, he was relieved. He smiled happily and went to the gazebo. Big brother. Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. Although it had only been a few days, it felt like a long time. Seeing Lu Yulo again felt like a lifetime had passed. Lu Yulo felt the same way too. He said emotionally, "Little sister, you're finally back." "What happened?" Lu Yurong said. "Chuli heard the news that the Fu dynasty has sent troops to attack the Ji dynasty." "Yes." Lu Yushu's expression was solemn. He sighed. "They're going to fight soon. The two sides are already in a stalemate. This time, the Fu dynasty is serious. They've sent 20,000 troops to the border in a day." He closed fists, saluted Chu Li. "Chief Chu, thank you." Chu Li closed fists, saluted, and smiled. "They're really going to fight?" Lu Yulo nodded. "I think there's a high chance of that. They've made an outrageous request to stop the war." "What request?" Lu Yurong frowned. Lu Yulo scoffed. "They want you to marry the third prince, Tang Yi, and they have to stop the war. Otherwise, they'll destroy the Ji dynasty." "What a joke." Lu Yurong's jade-like face was covered with a layer of frost. The atmosphere in the gazebo suddenly froze. The air became thinner, and the temperature dropped by a large margin. It felt like they had fallen into an ice cellar. Lu Yulo said, "This time, they've gone too far." "What about the emperor?" Lu Yurong sneered. "Don't tell me he's agreed." "I don't know." Lu Yulo shook his head. "The emperor is still considering it. He hasn't sent back any news. But since you're at Goddess Attraction Mountain, it's useless for the emperor to agree. He'll probably be stubborn for once." Chu Li said, "It'll be difficult." He had figured out Lung Wufeng's way of doing things. He had a deep-rooted fear of the Fu dynasty. As an enlightened master, he could endure anything for the Lung clan's empire. Lu Yurong shook her head. "I'll ask around." As she spoke, she left the gazebo and took out a flute from her sleeve. She played it softly, and the sound spread far and wide. Soon, a clear chirp was heard from the sky. Then, a white silhouette flashed before everyone's eyes. A snow-white eagle appeared in front of Lu Yurong and perched on her shoulder. Its beak gently touched Lu Yurong's ear. Lu Yurong took out a small bamboo tube and tied it to the white eagle's claw. Then, she gently sent it off. The white eagle flapped its wings and soared into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Lu Yurong said, "We should receive news in 2 hours." 2 hours later, the white eagle returned. Lu Yurong's face turned cold when she read the news. She passed the note in the bamboo tube to Chu Li. Chu Li glanced at it and passed it to Lu Yulo. Lu Yulo slammed the pillar of the gazebo. "Damn it!" The letter stated that the emperor, Lung Wufeng, had agreed to the Fu dynasty's third prince's request. He was sending someone to Republic House to ask them to hand Lu Yurong over so that Lu Yurong could save the Ji dynasty's border army. They could not sacrifice so many Ji dynasty elites for a woman like Lu Yurong. The troops stationed at the border of the Fu dynasty and the Ji dynasty were the most elite troops in the Ji dynasty, but they were no match for the Fu dynasty. If a war broke out, only 1 out of 10 of them would survive. When that time came, they would have to agree to the Fu dynasty's request. It was better to agree now, lest the Ji dynasty's border army died in vain. Lu Yulo said, "Younger sister, you should leave. Don't come back. Big brother, once I leave, the High Duke's public house won't have it easy." Lu Yurong shook her head. If she did not appear, Lung Wufeng would definitely force the High Duke's public house. The imperial family had many ways to keep the High Duke's public house in check. With Lung Wufeng's despicable ways, the High Duke's public house would definitely suffer heavy losses. Lu Yurong would be guilty. Chu Li's expression was solemn as he remained silent. Lu Yulo said, "Chief Chu, what do you think?" Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Lu Yulo was slightly disappointed. He had high hopes for Chu Li and felt that he was a man who could create miracles. He might have an idea in such a desperate situation. He did not expect Chu Li to shake his head and reply half-heartedly. Lu Yurong said, "If it really doesn't work, I can only marry him. Only you, Chu Li, will suffer." Chu Li smiled. "Are you really willing to do that? So what if I'm not?" Lu Yurong showed a stubborn look and sneered. "But if I really marry him, Tang, you won't have it easy." "Younger sister." Lu Yulo shook his head. I can't push you into the fire pit. Chapter 33:58. Chu Li shook his head. Let's wait and see. I'll think of something. What is it? Lu Yurong frowned at him. Don't mess around. Don't go after Tang Yi. The simplest way was to kill Tang Yi so that he wouldn't pester her anymore. Once Tang Yi was dead, he wouldn't mention her anymore. However, everyone knew that Tang Yi could not be killed. As the son of God, if someone tried to kill him, the Fu dynasty's emperor would appear and stop it in time. He might even retaliate and kill without restraint. There was no chance of survival. An enlightened master would not kill an enlightened master's blood relative. If the emperor retaliated, all enlightened masters would be alone. Chu Li smiled. Let's send you back first. I'm not going back. Lu Yurong shook her head. I'll stay in the public house. If the emperor really wants to deal with the public house, I can help. She was the pillar of the public house. Without her, the public house would only be able to exert 60 to 70% of its power. With her, they could exert 120% of their power. Chu Li said, If you're here, there's no way to turn things around. Chu Li, don't cause any more trouble. Let's end this matter here. Lu Yurong looked tired. She rubbed the center of her brows and shook her head. I don't want to drag too many people down because of me. Too many people have suffered. Chu Li smiled. This is not up to you. You cannot fight. I will take a look and find someone to think of a solution. It's fine if you stay here. If there's anything, just look for me. Lu Yurong had his jade pendant. As long as she crushed it, it would appear. He saw Lu Yurong's determined face. She would not go back with him, so he did not force her. Chu Li suddenly disappeared. Lu Yulo looked at where he left and shook his head in disappointment. Looks like he can't do anything. Lu Yurong said, No one can do anything now unless the mountain master of goddess attraction, Mount, intervenes. Unfortunately, he won't do anything. It goes against Goddess Attraction Mountain's principle of neutrality. Besides, the mountain master is an isolated cultivation. He can't be disturbed. Chu Li is so powerful. If he really can't do it, he can go to the Fu dynasty. Lu Yulo said, If another 100 grandmasters die, I don't believe the Fu dynasty won't be scared. You can't. Lu Yurong shook her head and said, Once this starts, the masters from the Fu dynasty will definitely come to the Ji dynasty. How many people in the Ji dynasty's martial arts world will be spared? Both sides will suffer. Lu Yulo's handsome face revealed a sinister expression. If that doesn't work, then both sides will suffer. He would never allow his little sister to marry Tang Yi and push her into the fire pit. She would not be able to rest in peace even if she died. Rather than that, he would rather let the entire Ji dynasty be destroyed than to sacrifice his little sister. Once Chu Li returned, he would persuade him to bring his younger sister far away. Then, he would dismiss all the masters of the public house, leaving only a few scribes behind. Then, he would see what the emperor could do. Was he really going to destroy the public house? I don't think he has the guts. He was extremely dissatisfied with the emperor and felt that the emperor was not worthy of his loyalty. His original thoughts changed drastically. He was originally very enthusiastic about serving the emperor, and so was his youngest sister. They felt that the prosperity of the public house required the support of the imperial family, so they helped King Jing to become the crown prince. However, he did not expect the royal family to be so heartless. Their painstaking loyalty was rewarded with betrayal and betrayal. If he had known this would happen, he would have stayed away from it. Even if the High Duke's public house declined a little, it would still be better than this. Unfortunately, there was no cure for regret in this world. Nothing could be changed. Chu Li suddenly appeared at the Great Light Peak. Then, in a flash, he appeared in Divine Light Basilica. The setting sun dyed Divine Light Basilica the color of roses. Sun Mingwei, dressed in a white tunic, sat quietly behind the desk, flipping through the files. Every time Chu Li came, he saw the same situation. She was flipping through the files and handling academic affairs. It was as if she was just a puppet handling academic affairs, without her own life or feelings. He had the most intimate contact with her, understood her heart, and felt sympathy and pity for her. After he suddenly appeared for a while, Sun Mingyue suddenly looked up and saw Chu Li, who was motionless. She frowned and said unhappily, "When did you come?" "I just arrived," Chu Li replied. Sun Mingyue said, "Is it because of the Fu Dynasty's troops? You've been in the limelight again, but this is the end. You must be very upset, right?" Chu Li came to the desk and sighed. "In the end, I still have to rely on you." He actually did not want to meet Sun Mingyue unless she needed his help. He was not prepared to let Sun Mingyue help him. Unfortunately, things did not always go according to one's wishes. He had no choice but to come in the end. "Beg me?" Sun Mingyue raised her eyebrows and said, "You're not going to kill Tang Yi, are you?" Chu Li slowly said, "I won't kill Tang Yi, but I'll teach him a lesson." "Then why did you come to me?" Sun Mingyue said, "You can handle Tang Yi." Chu Li said, "Tang Haotian." Sun Mingyue remained silent. Chu Li stared at her, knowing that she was in a difficult position. If she joined forces with him to deal with Tang Haotian, it would affect the fate of the Holy Church of Light and the Li dynasty. Once Tang Haotian recognized her, he would definitely take revenge on the Holy Church of Light and the Li dynasty. If he was willing to send troops just for a woman, he would be even crazier for his son. Sun Mingyue said, "You want to injure Tang Yi so badly that he won't dare to have any improper thoughts, right?" Chu Li calmly said, "I want to cripple him. Tang Haotian will definitely risk his life." Sun Mingyue frowned. "After that, he'll attack the Ji dynasty, the Holy Church of Light, and even the Li dynasty. If the Ji dynasty and the Li dynasty join forces, can they really deal with the Fu dynasty?" Her wish had always been to overthrow the Fu dynasty's oppression and remove the burden that was weighing down on her. Unfortunately, the Fu dynasty was too powerful, and she did not know when she would be able to achieve this wish. She might not even be able to do it in her lifetime, so she could only pin her hopes on the efforts of the next few generations. If she agreed to help Chu Li now, she would immediately face the Fu dynasty's overwhelming revenge, which would bring disaster to the Li dynasty and even the Holy Church of Light. She could not calmly weigh the pros and cons. Chu Li said, "The Fu dynasty isn't that powerful anymore. The martial arts masters might not be that powerful, but the Li dynasty and the Ji dynasty are far from being able to fight against them. The Fu dynasty's army is even more elite, and the Ji dynasty's army can't even withstand a single blow from them. Otherwise, why would Lung Wufeng be so weak? He's the clearest about the actual situation and the overall situation," Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li nodded slowly. Sun Mingyue said, "No matter how powerful you are, you're only one person, and there are only two of us. We might be able to deal with Tang Haotian, but we won't be able to deal with the Fu dynasty." Chu Li smiled. "In that case, you're rejecting my offer?" "Yes, I can't agree to it," Sun Mingyue said slowly. Chu Li did not look disappointed. Instead, he smiled. "In that case, there's nothing I can do. Unless you become an enlightened master immediately," Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li fist saluted. "If that's the case, I'll take my leave." Sun Mingyue stared at him. "You won't act on your own, will you? Are you going to die for Lu Yurong?" Chu Li waved his hand and suddenly disappeared. Chapter 3359. Sun Mingyue went to the place where Chu Li disappeared and remained silent. Her beautiful face showed a complicated expression. Her eyes flickered, sometimes bright, sometimes dark. At this moment, all kinds of emotions were entangled and could not be sorted out. Two thoughts were fighting in her mind. One side decided to help, and the other side decided not to. The one who helped was desperately looking for excuses, while the one who did not help had only one reason. The two thoughts were fighting like an army. It was hard to tell which was better. She suddenly raised her head and looked behind her. Chu Li stood silently behind her and smiled. "Are you willing to do this?" "What do you mean, satisfied?" Sun Mingyue scoffed. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. "I know you're not satisfied. This is your best chance." Sun Mingyue frowned and stared at him. She was tempted. Once she became an enlightened master, she could not do as she pleased. She was bound by the heavenly rules and could not do anything to the Fu dynasty. She could only pin her hopes on the next generation, her own successor. Just like his master in the past, his master might have gone through the same mental journey as him. His own efforts were in vain, and in the end, he could only place his hopes on him. That was why he was so strict with himself and made him work hard. He spent a huge amount of effort to make himself the number one person below the Grandmasters in preparation to become a stronger enlightened master. Unfortunately, she failed to live up to her master's expectations and was unable to achieve anything. Now, she was only a year away from becoming an enlightened master. If she could not defeat the Fu dynasty, she would not have another chance and would end up like her master. This time, she had a great chance. Although it was risky, there were always advantages and no disadvantages in this world. Chuli smiled. How about it? Do you want to take the risk? What are you going to do? Sun Mingwe scoffed. Chuli said, all right. Sun Mingwe nodded slowly. Chuli smiled. If that's the case, let's go. If I regret this, we'll never meet again. Sun Mingwe scoffed. Chuli said, of course. Sun Mingwe said, also you owe me a big favor. If I need your help in the future, you must do it without hesitation like I do now. Chuli shook his head. You've been hesitating for a long time. Sun Mingwe sneered and said, if I really want to hesitate, it won't just be a short while. I might need to think about it for a few days. All right, Chuli nodded. I'll owe you a favor then. The two of them quickly reached a tacit understanding. He grabbed Sun Mingwe's sleeve, and the two of them suddenly disappeared. Great Fujilan City, the largest restaurant in Jilan City, was completely empty, with only 20 or so people dining on the third floor. At the center of the table was Tang Yi. He was lazily picking up his silver chopsticks and picking at the food. He did not eat for a long time and looked at the table full of delicacies with disgust. Finally, he put down his silver chopsticks and did not eat anything. He picked up a silver cup and drank it in one gulp. He snorted and said, I don't have an appetite. You guys are guarding at the side. How can I have an appetite? Find some beauties and bring them over. Your Highness, the Emperor has ordered that there cannot be any strangers. The middle-aged guard, Su Shirshing, shook his head and sighed. We have to be careful of that Chu fellow. I'm afraid he won't give up now that he's cornered. Where did all of your courage go? Tang Yi said in disdain. Does he have the guts to kill me? Su Shirshing said, even a dog will jump over a wall when it's cornered. He's a master. He won't tolerate this silently. Isn't he afraid of death? Tang Yi sneered. If he really isn't afraid of death, he would have killed me long ago. But I'm standing right in front of him, and he only dares to slap me twice. Don't worry. When he thought of those 2 slaps, he felt a faint pain in his cheeks. It was as if Chuli was still standing right in front of him. His lips curled into a cruel smile. He must kill him. Sigh. Su Shirshing shook his head and sighed, knowing that he could not persuade him. He could vaguely guess what Tang Yi was thinking. He wanted to infuriate Chu Li and provoke him into killing him. Then, he could use the Emperor to kill Chu Li. It was not that the Emperor did not have such intentions. Otherwise, he would not have sent troops to the Ji dynasty's border to start a war. All of this was forcing Chu Li to assassinate Tang Yi. Once that happened, the Emperor would have an excuse to kill him. Chu Li was too dangerous to the Fu dynasty now, so he must be eliminated. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future. He looked around and finally shook his head. He did not know if Chu Li would dare to come. He sighed. I'm just afraid that the one coming to assassinate your Royal Highness isn't Chu Li, but Lu Yuro. That's great. Tang Ye's eyes lit up and he laughed. If she's coming, then don't go back. We can't deal with Chu Li, but can't Lu Yuro? Then why don't you go home and stay? Don't worry, your Royal Highness. If Lu Yurong really dares to come, we'll capture her alive and present her to your Royal Highness. Everyone responded. Tang Yi sat at the table in the middle, while the others occupied the other 4 tables, guarding the 4 corners of the table. They surrounded him tightly, making it difficult for birds to pass through and water to get in. Tang Yi did not have an appetite, but they did. They ate happily. Only when they were full would they have the strength to fight. They had been preparing, tensed up, and turned the pressure into appetite. Chu Li's reputation was growing, giving them a lot of pressure. Once he appeared, They would not be able to block a single move and might even die in one move. This time was different from the last time. Last time, they still had some reservations, so they only crippled their martial arts and did not kill them. However, at this point, Chuli should no longer have any reservations. If he made a move, he might just kill them. Your Royal Highness, is that Lu Yurong really that beautiful? Someone laughed. You can't forget her. She's unparalleled. Tang Yi glanced at the crowd and scoffed. You mortals can't see her beauty. Everyone chuckled. Although Tang Yi was arrogant, he treated the protectors around him very well. He did not seem to put on airs and spoke rudely and directly, which made the protectors feel close to him. They did not have to guess his thoughts all day long. Unfortunately, she's already married. A protector sighed. Your Royal Highness, do you still like her? Tang Yi said coldly. There's no woman in this world that I can't have. She will definitely become my woman. Or concubine Ping? Su Shishing asked curiously. Tang Yi laughed coldly. What do you think? Is she worthy of being concubine Ping? I'll let that bastard Chu Li take advantage of her. I'll make her regret it. Su Shishing saw the cold glint in Tang Yi's eyes and knew that it had triggered his tyranny. If Lu Yurong really married him, she would not have a good life. She might not have long to live. It was such a waste. He could only think about it, but did not dare to say it out loud. Tang Yi gritted his teeth and clenched his fist. He laughed coldly. Lu Yurong, Chu Li, I'll make you regret being born into this world. Is that so? Suddenly, there was a burst of laughter. Chu Li appeared in front of everyone and stood beside Tang Yi. Everyone was shocked and immediately froze. They did not dare to move. Chapter 3360. Tang Yi could not help but cover his face. He took a step back and stared at him in shock. Chu Li smiled at him and shook his head with a look of disdain. Seems like your Royal Highness is afraid of me. Nonsense. Tang Yi scoffed. He was furious at himself for retreating and covering his face. He hated himself and hated Chu Li even more. He clenched his teeth and glared at Chu Li. Chu Li, how dare you? This isn't the Ji dynasty. Chu Li glanced at the crowd. His gaze was calm and clear without a trace of emotion. Finally, his gaze fell on a young protector. The young guard pressed his left hand on the hilt of his sword and remained motionless. The aura around his body was skyrocketing, and he was ready to strike at any moment. Obviously, he was prepared to perish together with Chun Shi. He pressed forward with an indomitable will to perish together with Chun Shi. Chu Li looked at him playfully. He shook his head and suddenly punched him. Bang! The young protector flew out and crashed into the pillar of the restaurant. He was instantly immobilized, and his body sank 3 inches into the pillar. Blood gushed out from the corner of his mouth and eyes. He was on his last breath. The crowd felt their hearts skip a beat and almost stopped beating. Their heartstrings suddenly tightened again, as if they were going to snap at any time. Chu Li, you're too arrogant. A middle-aged protector shouted and pounced at Chu Li. His legs hadn't even left the ground when he was sent flying with a pong sound. He was also stuck to the pillar. Only under the young bodyguard's feet, the two of them were stuck to the pillar, unable to move at all. They could only show struggling and pained expressions. Chu Li glanced at the crowd and smiled faintly. Who else is not convinced? I'm not convinced. Su Shishing shouted. This is the Fu dynasty, not the Ji dynasty. It's not a place where you can do whatever you want. Is that so? Chu Li smiled. He turned around and suddenly slapped Tang Yi's face. Slap! A crisp slap was heard. Tang Yi covered his face and glared at him with a hint of fear. He had already gathered all the inner energy in his body and was ready to launch a sneak attack on Chu Li to avenge the slap. The depth of his cultivation was far beyond what others could imagine. Half of his usual arrogance was his true nature, and the other half was an act. He exaggerated his true nature to hide his ambition for the throne. He had always been cultivating in secret, and his cultivation was outstanding. Even if it was not as good as Wei Wuwei's, it was not far off. However, he had never had the chance to reveal it, and only his father could see through it. No one else knew the depth of his cultivation. Unfortunately, he had always prided himself on hiding his strength and being able to disguise himself as a pig to eat a tiger. However, in front of Chu Li, he was no different. No matter how strong his martial arts were, he could not withstand a single blow from Chu Li. He could not avoid this slap. He had already tried his best to dodge this slap, and he had expected that Chu Li would do this. Unfortunately, with his profound inner energy, he was unable to react in time and had already been slapped. Chu Li's movements were extremely fast, but it did not seem fast. Chu Li turned to look at the crowd. They were eager to make a move and stared at him. This slap landed on Tang Ye's face, but it was more like a slap to their faces. The servants had to die if their master was humiliated. They wanted nothing more than to kill Chu Li, but they were wary of his martial arts and dared not do anything rash. Chu Li shook his head. Protectors of the imperial residence don't even dare to make a move. Chu Li, what do you want? Su Shishing said in a low voice. You have to know that if His Royal Highness is injured, you won't be able to escape. Chu Li smiled. You don't have to worry about whether I can escape or not. Think about your Royal Highness. How badly will he be injured? You could take a guess. Will I chop off one of his arms or castrate him? Otherwise, he will be thinking about women all day long and snatching other people's women when he sees them. Chu Li, don't you dare. Tang Yi sneered. Chu Li glanced at him and smiled. Why wouldn't I dare? If you hurt me, my father will definitely kill you. Tang Yi said in disdain. Do you want to die with me? Why can't I die with you? Chu Li shook his head. Since you don't want me to live a good life, let's all die together. That way, you won't have to continue harming other women in this world. Do you dare? Tang Yi shook his head and pouted. Chu Li said, It's fine if I die, but for you, it's a pity. You won't be able to fight for the throne anymore. What do you mean? Tang Yi's expression changed. Chu Li said, As a prince, who would believe that you don't want to fight for the throne? Your lustful nature can't hide your ambition. You think you're smart and can fool the world. Tang Yi's face darkened. He looked at the people around him. They all looked away. Tang Yi knew that Chu Li was right. He was the only one who thought he was smart, but he was fooled by everyone. His anger was like a huge flame that could swallow him at any time. He gritted his teeth. Chu Li, do you dare to make a move? Slap. Another slap was heard. Tang Yi stood where he was. A red mark appeared on the left side of his face. The red mark on the right side had turned purple. He glared at Chu Li, but did not say anything else. He knew that he would be slapped again if he said anything more. Chu Li smiled. Your Royal Highness, do you regret coming to this world? No. Tang Yi laughed coldly. I only regret not killing Lu Yuro. Chu Li frowned at him and smiled. It seems like your Royal Highness wants to die. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I'll just cripple you. He flicked his finger. Bang! Su Shishing suddenly stood in front of Tang Yi and blocked the finger energy with his palm. He fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Chu Li smiled and flicked his finger again. You're loyal. I'll spare your life. Ah! The others all rushed over. Chu Li's figure disappeared from the spot and appeared in front of Tang Yi in the next moment. He gently poked his chest. A cold light flashed from his waist, and a cold light pierced the center of his legs. Ah! Tang Yi screamed and fell to the ground. His martial arts had been crippled, and he had become a eunuch. How dare you? A loud bang suddenly sounded. The protectors who were rushing over fell to the ground like dumplings in a pot. This loud shout shook the heavens and the earth. It directly shook the mind and made them lose control of their inner energy. Chu Li disappeared in a flash. Die! A yellow shadow flashed in front of the crowd. Chu Li disappeared almost at the same time. Emperor! The yellow shadow disappeared before the crowd could shout. Chu Li appeared above the 10 absolute origin lock valley. Sun Mingwei was standing at the peak. When she saw him appear, she immediately extended her left hand. Chu Li held her hand, and the two of them jumped down into the valley. The yellow shadow suddenly flashed and appeared in the void. It punched the two of them. Bang! Chu Li met it with his palm. There was an explosion in the void. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue's speed of descent suddenly increased. The yellow shadow flashed again and appeared below Chu Li and Sun Mingwei in the next moment. It then punched upwards. Bang! In the explosion, Chu Li and Sun Mingyue's body suddenly slowed down and almost floated up. Chu Li frowned and swung his palm again. Bang! The yellow shadow met the palm and could not help but descend. Chapter 3361. Chu Li frowned and looked at Sun Mingyue. Sun Mingyue shook her head. Her face was covered by a white veil, revealing only her bright eyes that were crystal clear. She did not want to make a move unless it was a critical moment. Once she made a move, her identity would be exposed. She could not hide the divine light fist from Tang Haoyan. He would definitely seek revenge from the Holy Church of Light. Chu Li shook his head. Even if she did not make a move, she could not hide it from Tang Haoyan. Tang Haoyan must have known that they worked together to deal with monk Luan Ming and Chun Jinji. Tang Haoyan guessed that it was Sun Mingyue. Even if he did not know, he would know after asking around. It was rare for a grandmaster to fight against an enlightened master. It was easy to find out. Sun Mingyue blinked and shook her head again. She would not make a move unless it was a critical moment. Chu Li smiled helplessly and did not try to persuade her anymore. The two of them suddenly fell at an incredible speed. Suddenly, a yellow figure flashed below them. Chu Li had been waiting. When he saw the yellow figure, he attacked with Heavenly King Palm. Heavenly King Palm was fierce and overbearing. It was as fast as thunder. Bang! With an explosion, the yellow figure suddenly fell 2 feet and stopped in the void. It was as if it was stepping on the void. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue cannot do this. This was a skill unique to enlightened masters. They could borrow strength from the void. It was endless and impossible to defend against. The yellow figure revealed itself. It was a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was not handsome, but he was strong. He exuded a heroic aura. It was less gentle than Chu Li's heroic aura and more rugged. It was as if he was a man of steel who walked out of sandstorm. At first glance, it was obvious that he was bold and had an extraordinary aura. Chu Li knew that the person in front of him was the most powerful person in the world. He was the Fu dynasty's emperor, Tang Haoyan. Tang Haoyan's eyes were like torches. He stared at Chu Li and then at Sun Mingyue. He frowned. "Are you Lu Yurong?" Sun Mingyue's eyes flashed, but she did not say anything. Tang Haoyan obviously did not know the power of Chu Li and Sun Mingyue. He mistook her for Lu Yurong. This was exactly what Sun Mingyue wanted. She scoffed but did not say anything. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue kept falling. Tang Haoyan followed suit, but his speed was as slow as a feather. Chu Li scoffed. "Your Majesty wants to avenge the third prince." "That's right." Tang Haoyan's expression darkened. "How dare you hurt my son?" Chu Li sneered. "Your Majesty is indulging him so much because you want to kill him, right? You just borrowing my hand." "Nonsense." Tang Haoyan grunted coldly. "You must be dreaming." Chu Li said, "Using my hands to kill him, and then killing me. Everything will go smoothly and flawlessly." Could it be because of his ambition? Which prince in the world doesn't have ambition? There's nothing to worry about. No, there must be some inside story. Could it be that it involves the secrets of the palace? "I'll kill you today," Tang Haoyan said grimly. His gaze fell on Sun Mingyue, and he said, "As for you, Miss Lu, follow me back. Marrying my son won't be considered a disgrace to you. In the future, help the High Duke's public house a little more, and the High Duke's public house won't be constrained by the Great Ji dynasty." Sun Mingyue snorted softly and did not say anything, revealing a look of disdain. Chu Li glanced at her and felt helpless about her actions. Chu Li said, "Your Majesty might not be able to kill me today. Then wait and see. I never talk nonsense." Tang Haoyan grunted and pounced on him again. Chu Li countered with a punch. Bam! Tang Haoyan countered with a palm strike. The muffled sound was earth-shattering, but it did not affect the two. They continued to fight head-on. Their fists and palms collided, and the muffled sound was incessant, shaking the entire ravine. The three of them did not keep falling, but floated up and down. Sometimes they floated up, and sometimes they fell. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue did not have Tang Haoyan's ability to turn the void into the ground, but they could use the changes in their inner energy to move their bodies up and down. Tang Haoyan's long-lost competitiveness was stimulated. He stubbornly believed that he could not defeat Chu Li. His palms were more powerful than the last. His eyes were shining, and his face was glowing. He fought to his heart's content. He had not let go of himself like this for a long time. There were very few people in the world who would let him fight to his heart's content. These people usually did not fight with him, so there was no place for him to use his unparalleled martial arts. It was just like the dragon slaying technique. He could not continue to cultivate it. Such a rare opportunity made him exuberant and excited. Every palm strike was delightful, and the wind from his palm overflowed in all directions, shaking the void as if it was about to shatter the void. The power of his palm strike was beyond his imagination. Chu Li gradually fell into a disadvantage. He did not expect Tang Haoyan to be so powerful. He was many times more powerful than Luan Ming, Chun Jinji, and the others. Enlightened masters were indeed different. There were strong and weak ones. Sun Mingyue frowned as she watched the two of them fight, comparing their strengths. Tang Haoyan's cultivation level was indeed high and shocking. He was even more powerful than Chu Li, but Chu Li's techniques were experienced and ruthless. He was barely able to turn the tables. Even so, he was still suppressed by Tang Haoyan and was on the verge of collapsing. She secretly exclaimed that Chu Li was indeed a gifted genius. Logically speaking, he was young, so his techniques should be inferior to Tang Haoyan's. However, it was the opposite. His techniques were more experienced and skillful than Tang Haoyan's. Although she did not want to attack, if she did not attack now, she was afraid that the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture's inner energy would be completely exhausted, and she would not be able to do anything to Tang Haoyan. She could only attack and throw a punch. Bam! Tang Haoyan lightly caught the punch and suddenly fell. He did not expect Sun Mingyue's punch to be so powerful. It was not inferior to Chu Li's, and Chu Li also threw a punch at the same time. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue followed closely behind and threw another punch at the same time. Both of them used the Divine Light Fist. After combining, the power was like 4 punches superimposed. Tang Haoyan was at a disadvantage. He was suppressed by the two of them and kept falling. In one breath, he fell into the ravine. Suddenly falling into the ravine, his vitality dissipated. Tang Haoyan was shocked. He immediately activated his secret skill and drew in the spiritual energy of Outland. Then, he avoided the pool and fell to the side. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue followed closely behind him. Tang Haoyan floated toward the forest and sneered. "This will be your burial ground." In this world, other than enlightened masters, no one could mobilize the spiritual energy of Outland. At this moment, the two of them were like arrows at the end of their flight. They would soon run out of inner energy and would be at his mercy. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue suddenly sped up and threw a Divine Light Fist at the same time. Tang Haoyan suddenly dodged twice in a strange manner. He sidestepped the 2 punches and rushed toward the two of them. Bam! He took Chu Li's punch head-on and struck Sun Mingyue with his right palm. Sun Mingyue met it with a punch and flew backward. Chu Li hurriedly activated his body movement technique and flew backward. He did not have time to punch Tang Haoyan again. Instead, he channeled his inner energy to help channel the strange palm force in her body. Sun Mingyue spat out a mouthful of blood and leaned on him weakly. She was completely dependent on him for support. Chu Li secretly sighed at Tang Haoyan's ruthlessness. He had taken the initiative to use his secret skill to injure his opponent. His attack was ruthless and accurate. The strange force in Sun Mingyue's body was strange and unpredictable. It seemed illusory but real. He could not grasp it. His rich inner energy could not expel it. He frowned and looked at Tang Haoyan, who was not far away. Chapter 3362. Sun Mingyue pushed him lightly and whispered, "Take care of him first." Chu Li frowned at her. Sun Mingyue shook her head. "I'm fine." Chu Li said, "Ignore him first. We'll talk after you're healed." Sun Mingyue frowned and scoffed. "If we don't take care of him now, we'll all be killed by him." Chu Li nodded slowly. Their auras were almost gone. He did not expect Tang Haoyan to be so powerful. He was far more powerful than Luan Ming, Chun Jinji, and the others. If it was Luan Ming and Chun Jinji, they would have been severely injured. No wonder the Fu dynasty could suppress the other 4 countries. It was not only because of the country's power, but also because of the enlightened master. Other than Tang Haoyan, there was also the more powerful mountain master of Goddess Attraction Mountain, his master Zhou Dunli. The other 4 countries could only surrender. When he thought of this, he wanted to see if he could kill Tang Haoyan. He gently put Sun Minghua down and let her sit cross-legged on the grass. Then, he fluttered to Tang Haoyan. Tang Haoyan suddenly opened his eyes. They were frightening as he pushed his palms forward. Chu Li countered with his palms. Bang! Chu Li took 2 steps back. The strange aura entered his body like a snake. He felt weak, as if all his inner energy was devoured by this strange aura. His meridians were empty, and he could not produce any strength. The power of this strange palm energy was shocking. It must be some kind of secret skill. Chu Li took 2 steps back again. He took a deep breath and carefully felt the palm energy. He did not care that it was wreaking havoc in his body and activated the secret skill. His white robe fluttered as he slowly inflated like a balloon. Tang Haoyan frowned as he looked at him and desperately activated his inner energy. The white robe suddenly stuck to his body. It was as if he had shrunk and became shorter and weaker. Chu Li exhaled a mouthful of murky air and slowly extended his palm to activate the sacrifice technique. He gathered all his cultivation in this palm. It was the Heavenly King palm. Suddenly, a ray of light descended from the sky and gathered in Chu Li's palm. It was the spiritual energy from beyond the heavens. It condensed into a vague palm print and disappeared. The next moment, it appeared on Tang Haoyan's chest. Tang Haoyan wanted to dodge, but it was in vain. He realized that his body's reaction was not fast enough, and he took the hit. Bang! He was like a stone that was thrown by a catapult. He drew an arc in the air and crashed heavily into a big tree. He spat out a mouthful of blood. All right. Tang Haoyan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and sneered at Chu Li. He leaped up the tree and swooped down on Sun Minghua like an eagle. Chu Li furrowed his brows. Tang Haoyan's body was so strong, but he was still standing. In desperation, he desperately activated the sacrifice formula. His body was already empty, so he squeezed out the last bit of his inner force and stood in front of Sun Minghua. Bang! He was sent flying. Good lad, you're really infatuated. I'll kill you next time. Tang Haoyan sneered. Without stopping, he leaped up and disappeared into the sky in the blink of an eye. Chu Li lay limply in front of Sun Minghua, blood gushing out from the corner of his mouth. He was powerless to move. Tang Haoyan's strange palm force was wreaking havoc in his body, destroying his internal organs. His body was rapidly weakening. Sun Minghua's expression under the white veil was complicated. She frowned and helped him up. She sighed. If it were not for Chu Li blocking in front of him, he would have lost his life if he had taken a hit. Chu Li shook his head. I miscalculated. I didn't expect Tang Haoyan to be so powerful. Sun Minghua said, if you can't kill him, you'll kill him next time. This time, he knows how powerful you are, so he won't dare to mess around. Chu Li smiled weakly. I don't have to worry about the Holy Church of Light anymore, right? Worry about yourself first. Sun Minghua rolled her eyes at him. Her rich breath rushed into Chu Li's body, and she realized that something was wrong. Chu Li's internal organs were already destroyed. Only a spirit pill like the Spirit Blessing Pill could save him, but in the 10 Ultimate Vitality Sealing Valley, all spirit pills were useless. She gritted her teeth and stood up. She helped Chu Li up and walked toward the cave. Although she was heavily injured, she could still use her light body technique. She helped him to push away the vines and entered the cave. After entering the cave, she felt a sense of familiarity and warmth. She was no longer shy and awkward. She quickly took off their clothes and hugged Chu Li as they began to cultivate the supreme diamond scripture. After the scripture was activated, The Brahma wheel continuously surged into the outland's spiritual energy. Through their undersea wheel, it turned into a rich breath that circulated in their bodies, driving away the feeling of weakness. Their bodies that were damaged by the strange palm energy were quickly recovering. However, the strange palm energy was like an illusory fog that would disperse as soon as it approached. They could not get rid of it no matter how hard they tried. It kept lingering in their bodies. Tang Haotian flew up and used his secret skill to rush out of the 10 ultimate vitality ceiling formation. He rushed to the peak in one breath. Ugh! He spat out a mouthful of blood. He could no longer suppress his weakness and pain. First, he was injured. Then, he used 3 secret skills. His body could not take it anymore. Fortunately, he was out of the formation. The spiritual energy from heaven and earth surged to repair his body. Otherwise, his life would be in danger. It was too dangerous this time. Truly, he suddenly turned his head and his expression changed. Zhou Dunley was dressed in a yellow tunic. He looked at him quietly. His kind face was solemn. Brother Zhou, Tang Haotian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and fist saluted. We haven't seen each other for a long time. I missed you, Zhou Dunley said coldly. Did you think of me when you killed my disciple? Tang Haotian shook his head helplessly. Brother Zhou, you should know that Chuli isn't a disciple of the Food Dynasty. Even if he entered Goddess Attraction Mountain, his heart is still in the Ji Dynasty. It's best to get rid of him, lest we raise a tiger in our bosom. I don't care about the Food Dynasty or the Ji Dynasty. I only know that he's my disciple. Zhou Dunley scoffed. The cause was that useless third son of yours. He coveted my disciple's woman. That was just a prelude, Tang Haotian said. Zhou Dunley said, if there's a next time, don't blame me for turning against you. He's already crippled my son. Tang Haotian shook his head and smiled bitterly. But he's safe and sound. Zhou Dunley scoffed. I hope he's safe. If anything happens to him, we'll have a good fight. Tang Haotian said he won't die. Brother Zhou, you've taken in a good disciple. He was extremely wary of Chuli. If he could not get rid of him, there would be another Zhou Dunley in the future. If that happened, the Ji Dynasty would become a big problem for the Food Dynasty. He had to think of a way to get rid of Chuli. Zhou Dunley said coldly, you better listen to me. If there's a next time, I won't be so nice. He slowly took 2 steps forward and got closer to Tang Haotian. As long as he doesn't provoke me, I won't kill him. Tang Haotian sighed and swore helplessly. He knew that he could not hide his weakness from Zhou Dunley. All right, I'll remember this. Zhou Dunley snorted coldly and didn't move forward. An enlightened master's promise was valid. Otherwise, there would be trouble. Tang Haotian secretly sighed in relief. He gave a fist salute and said, then I'll take my leave. Go. Zhou Dunley scoffed. Tang Haotian did not stay any longer. He disappeared in a flash. Zhou Dunley turned his head to look at the ravine. This new disciple of his really had a lot of women. He did not know what would happen if he was distracted like this. He shook his head and suddenly disappeared. Chuli suddenly opened his eyes. With a wave of his hand, a jade pendant in his shirt flew into his hand. He continued to make hand signs with both hands. The jade pendant was sandwiched between his hands. As a mellow aura flowed into it, it became brighter and brighter. The entire cave was as bright as day. In the end, it was as if a sun had fallen into the cave, shining brightly. A dragon's roar suddenly echoed in his mind. A huge dragon appeared in front of him, flying through the clouds. Chapter 3363. Amidst the dragon's roar, a dazzling golden dragon soared through the clouds, as if it was real. Every scale on the dragon's body flickered with a different golden light. The golden light seemed to have a life of its own, and a vast majesty pressed down on him, as if it wanted him to kneel down in submission. An endless power pressed down on him. The Supreme King Kong suddenly raised his head and pointed at the dragon. A ray of light as bright as the morning sun shot towards the golden dragon. Boom! There was a loud noise. He felt dizzy, and everything became unreal. Everything was an illusion. The rich breath was still flowing. He slowly recovered and saw Sun Mingyue's beautiful face looking at him worriedly. He smiled. The heart technique kept circulating in his mind. He could not forget it. It was the dragon taming technique. The mental cultivation method of the art of dragon control was abnormally complicated. Each layer had a different mental cultivation method, and each layer's mental cultivation method was completely different from the previous layer. It was like a different mental cultivation method, and there was no inheritance. It was not easy to cultivate the dragon taming technique. More importantly, the key to the dragon taming technique was not himself, but the dragon. It needed the assistance of the dragon energy. Without the dragon energy, it was difficult to break through to the next level. No wonder there was a spirit snake in the valley. The spirit snake was growing stronger and stronger. It was going to turn into a dragon. It was Dong Jianxin's spirit snake. In the future, it would become a real dragon with him and could fly to the outland. Chuli finally knew how to cultivate the dragon taming technique. He needed to find a snake and start cultivating from the spirit snake technique. He needed to turn an ordinary giant snake into a spirit snake and use it to cultivate the dragon taming technique. If the inner energy of the dragon taming technique was enough, the spirit snake could evolve a level and produce a trace of dragon energy. Through the feedback of this dragon energy, he could advance to the next level. This cycle would continue until the 9th level, where he could truly turn into a dragon and travel to the outland. Chuli frowned and pondered. The process of turning a snake into a dragon would definitely take a very long time. The cultivation of the art of dragon control was very ordinary. If he wanted to cultivate the art of dragon control and the other 3 mental cultivation methods within 2 years, or even 1 year, becoming a heavenly god would be a dream. Sun Mingyue saw him frowning and asked softly, "What are you thinking about?" She noticed that something was amiss behind her and shone brightly. Then, Chuli was distracted. Although he was still channeling the supreme titanium scripture, his spirit seemed to have drifted far away and was no longer in front of him. She was very curious about what Chuli was doing. He could still be absent-minded when he was cultivating like this. Could it be that she could not attract his attention? Chuli slowly woke up. He smiled and shook his head. His intuition was very accurate. If he were to break through the inheritance of the art of dragon control while cultivating the supreme Vajra Sutra, who knew how long it would take for him to do so? Although it was a shortcut, it was beneficial to him. His spirit was strong, and the amount of time he could maintain his cultivation was far beyond that of ordinary people. This was the reason why he improved so quickly and surpassed ordinary people. The earlier he broke through the inheritance of the art of dragon control, the earlier he could not only make up for what he lacked previously, but also obtain more. Sun Mingyue gently let go of his hand, and the two separated. Chuli glanced at her white, jade-like body and turned around to avoid her embarrassment. Sun Mingyue quickly put on her gown to cover her stunning figure. Chuli also put on his white robe. The two came out of the cave. Their injuries had healed, but the strange force was still there. However, the speed at which it destroyed their bodies was almost the same as their extreme yin and yang force, so it was not a concern. However, they still had to get rid of it. Otherwise, it would be their biggest weakness when they fought others in the future. The two came to the side of the pool. Sun Mingyue looked at the crystal-clear pool and shook her head. "Why don't I see that poisonous dragon?" Chuli said, "It's very smart. It probably sensed danger and did not come out." Sun Mingyue looked at Chuli. "What are you doing?" Chuli said, "I'm about to cultivate the art of dragon control. It seems like you really want to defy nature and become a god." Sun Mingyue sighed softly and slowly shook her head. "I'm not as good as you." She did not have the courage to take this path, but it was the best path. As long as she defied nature and became a god, she would not be bound by the heavenly rules. She would be able to do whatever she wanted, and the Holy Church of Light would become the world's #1 religion. The Li dynasty would also be able to get rid of the Fu dynasty suppression. She hesitated for a while and sighed without saying a word. Chuli understood what she was thinking and smiled. The art of dragon control can't be taught to outsiders. I've already sworn an oath. However, what's the difference between me becoming an enlightened master and you becoming one? You owe me a huge favor this time. I'll try my best to help you. Thank you very much. Sun Mingyue felt a warmth in her heart and smiled faintly. Chu Li said, "Unfortunately, the art of dragon control isn't easy to cultivate. Let's not talk about the art of dragon control for now. Let's talk about Tang Hao Ian." Sun Mingyue frowned again and shook her head. He already knows that I'm from the Holy Church of Light. He'll definitely seek revenge. Chu Li smiled. That might not be the case. Senior Song is also here. Master can't defeat him, Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li said, there's also the Li Dynasty's emperor. I'll persuade Master not to join forces with him. Can you persuade him? Sun Mingyue frowned. Chu Li slowly said, I'll try my best. If it really did not work, he could just say that Sun Mingyue was also his wife. He could vaguely see the way Goddess Attraction Mountain operated. They only cared about who was close to them and did not care about reason. As long as he said that Sun Mingyue was his wife, even if Zhou Dunli did not help, he would not go against the Holy Church of Light. Sun Mingyue nodded lightly. Chu Li said, the palm technique he used is strange. What technique is it? If I'm not mistaken, it should be the soul-tracking palm. Sun Mingyue said, I heard that the cultivation method is strange. It was cultivated in a cemetery. It has the ability to track one's soul. Those who are hit by it will not be spared. Soul-tracking palm. Chu Li pondered and shook his head. He had never heard of this palm technique. Sun Mingyue said, it needs to be collected from the sun's fire of extreme yang and the extreme yang heart technique to eliminate it. The extreme yang heart technique. Chu Li frowned. How about this? The two of us cultivate again at noon. Sun Mingyue hesitated for a while and slowly nodded. This was the best way to eliminate the soul-tracking palm. Due to her physique, even if she cultivated the extreme yang and extreme yang heart technique, its power was barely enough. It might not be able to eliminate the soul-tracking palm's energy. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed. The evil dark dragon emerged from the water and revealed its ugly head. It growled at Chu Li. Sun Mingyue's entire body tensed up. She was on guard against its sudden attack, but she saw that it had no intention of attacking. Instead, it seemed like it was greeting Chu Li. Chu Li waved his hand. The evil dark dragon slowly slid out of the pool. It lay on the grass on the shore and lazily basked in the sun. Sun Mingyue turned to look at Chu Li. Is this how you turn hostility into friendship? Chu Li nodded. It saved me last time. I saved it too. How interesting. Sun Mingyue shook her head and laughed. It seems that beasts are much stronger than dragons. Chu Li said, spirit beasts are indeed purer and more reliable than humans. Spirit beasts' intelligence was not inferior to humans, but their hearts were more simple and pure. They could only differentiate between friends and enemies. They were cruel to their enemies, but not malicious to their friends. It was much easier to get along with them than humans. As he spoke, he channeled the first level of the dragon taming technique. He transformed the extreme yang and extreme yang inner energy into a mellow force that gently patted the evil dark dragon's body. The evil dark dragon was not on guard against him and let him pat its thigh. Chapter 33-64. After bidding farewell to the two ladies, he suddenly appeared in the backyard of the Rin public house. The sound of a zither could be heard from the back garden. The sound was clear and cheerful. It was obvious that the owner was in a good mood. Lu Yurong was dressed in white and was playing the zither with her head lowered. Her hair was loose, black and shiny, making her skin look as fair as jade. Chu Li coughed softly, and the sound of the guzheng came to an abrupt stop. Lu Yurong turned her head and saw that it was him. She smiled sweetly and extended her hand, gesturing for him to sit down. Chu Li smiled and sat down. Have you heard the news? Lu Yurong's information network was not inferior to CEO Shi's. It was even better. The House of High Dukes had a deep foundation and many informants. Lu Yurong even had informants from the Secret Guardians Hall. Her methods were outstanding. Even if she resigned as the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall, her trusted aides were still around, just like himself. Thank you very much. Lu Yurong stood up and bowed deeply. Chu Li waved his hand, and a gentle inner energy held her up, preventing her from kowtowing. He waved his hand and smiled. It's what I should do anyway. There's no need to thank me. I never thought things would get this big. Lu Yurong sighed. She heard that Tang Yi had been crippled and his descendants had been cut off, unable to continue. In the future, he would become a cripple and would not be able to have any descendants. He originally did not have any children, so his bloodline could be considered to have been severed. This made her feel extremely satisfied, but at the same time, she was worried about Chu Li's safety. This had touched Tang Haotian's bottom line, so he had to kill Chu Li at all costs. Killing Chu Li was not against the heavenly rules. Initially, he had been worried about Chu Li's safety. When he heard that the Fu dynasty had retreated, he immediately knew that Chu Li should be fine and that Tang Haotian must have suffered a loss. Otherwise, he would not have retreated. Modesty and leniency were not part of the Fu dynasty's tradition. If Chu Li had really been killed, the Fu dynasty's border army would definitely invade the Ji dynasty's interior. This would hurt the Ji dynasty and greatly damage the Ji dynasty's vitality. This would serve as a warning to future generations. Originally, it was just a small matter of Tang Yi liking her and wanting to force her to marry him. In the end, it had escalated to such an extent that the two countries were about to go to war. She had become a femme fatale. No matter how intelligent she was, she had never expected it. Chu Li smiled. I didn't expect it to be so serious, or else I wouldn't have agreed to it back then. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes. Chu Li said, we should go back. I won't be going back. Lu Yurong hesitated. Chu Li looked at her in surprise. Lu Yurong sighed. The matter has been resolved. If I go back now, Shao Qi won't be happy. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. If you don't go back, things will become more troublesome. You should go there first. Goddess Attraction Mountain is a holy place for cultivation. He did not ask Lu Yurong to go back because of her beauty, nor was it because he had other thoughts. It was for the sake of justification. Once the matter was settled, he would not allow Lu Yurong to return to Goddess Attraction Mountain. Everyone would know that the two of them were fakes. They had fooled the whole world, not to mention others. Zhou Dunli would not be able to face them. Are you sure? Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li shook his head. Don't worry. That's good. Lu Yurong smiled. When are we going back? It's best if we leave now, Chu Li said. Sure. Lu Yurong agreed without hesitation. Mount Yamen Chu Li stood in front of a black bronze bell. He bent his finger and tapped it twice. A faint ringing sound could be heard. It was clearer than the previous time. He felt the prayer flashing in the bell and understood it in his heart. He was thinking, if he visualized these prayers in his mind and used them directly, would he be able to directly transmit his thoughts to the Outland? Then, he felt that he was thinking too much. Prayer should not be used like that. However, he had a feeling that these prayers were not simple. He needed to carefully explore its mysteries. It would definitely surprise him. Unfortunately, visualizing these prayers was not easy. He was currently focused on cultivating the dragon taming technique. He did not have the time to think about other things. It seemed like he could figure this out in his free time. Who knows, he might gain a lot from it. This thought flashed in his mind. Suddenly, he heard a dragon's roar in his mind. It was followed by the dragon's body. Then, a huge and mighty force pressed down on him like a mountain. He could not help but want to bend his knees and fall to the ground. The sky shone faintly in a golden light. It was faintly discernible in the beginning. Later, the golden light became brighter and brighter. Finally, a real dragon appeared. This dragon rode on the clouds and roamed in the sky. Soon, it reached the top of his head. Zhou Dunli floated down from the dragon's body. The real dragon roared and soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the clouds. Chu Li stared at the dragon. He used the omniscient mirror to observe it. He wanted to see its interior so that it would be more beneficial for cultivating the dragon taming technique. Unfortunately, The dragon looked slow, but its speed was unimaginably fast. If he did not have the omniscient mirror, it would have disappeared in a blink of an eye. Zhou dumbly was still looking at him kindly. He nodded in satisfaction. Lier, why did you call me back? Chu Li closed fist saluted. Did you teach Tang Hao Qian a lesson? Zhou dumbly waved his hand and smiled. I did not do anything. Chu Li looked at him in confusion. This was strange. If Zhou dumbly did not do anything, Tang Hao Qian would not be so obedient. I only gave him a few warnings. I did not let him act recklessly, Zhou dumbly said with a smile. Thank you, master. Chu Li realized. He was right. Zhou dumbly said, you were too rash this time. But you're a young man. It's not a big deal. Next time, remember to think carefully before you act. Don't act recklessly. Your life is very precious. You should cherish it more than others. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Zhou dumbly said seriously, I'm not joking. You should know that there are very few disciples in Goddess Attraction Mountain. It's better that you're here. In the past, there was only one disciple. If you die and the inheritance ends because of you, you'll be a sinner. Even if you go to the Grandmaster's boundary, you won't have a good life. Chu Li's expression became serious. He nodded. Yes, I'll be careful in the future. Your priority from now on is not to win, but to retreat in one piece. Zhou dumbly said, as long as you don't die, you'll be an enlightened master. You'll be able to take revenge no matter what. Yes, Chu Li nodded. Zhou dumbly smiled. Lier, you're good at everything. You're also talented. Unfortunately, you're too greedy for women. He could tell that Chu Li had reached the second level of the dragon taming technique. This time, he was severely injured by Tang Hao Qian, but it was obviously a blessing in disguise, and he had improved a level. This kind of luck and aptitude was really rare in the world. Dong Jianxin was far inferior to him, and it seemed that the next heavenly deity position was already in his pocket. Master, I teamed up with the saint of the Holy Church of Light to deal with Tang Hao Qian. He won't take revenge on the Holy Church of Light, right? Chu Li asked embarrassedly. Sigh. Zhou dumbly shook his head and looked at him pitifully. Chu Li was confused. He did not know why he was like that. Zhou dumbly shook his head and sighed. Chu Li was scared. Did Tang Hao Qian take revenge on the Holy Church of Light? Well, Zhou dumbly shook his head. No, Chu Li asked. Then why are you sighing? I'm sad for you, Zhou dumbly said. Chapter 3366. Tang Hao Qian's body paused for a moment before he soared up again and was about to disappear from Chu Li's sight. Chu Li shouted, Master will definitely talk to you if he hears this. You'll suffer a great loss. Why don't we have a good chat? Oomph. Tang Hao Qian sneered and finally disappeared. Chu Li smiled. He had tested Tang Hao Qian's fear of Zhou dumbly. It was obvious that Tang Hao Qian could not defeat Master Zhou dumbly, and the difference was huge. He had no chance of winning. He sat cross-legged on the grass and channeled to calm himself down. Although the fight was short, it was extremely dangerous. If Tang Hao Qian had cut his vital parts, then there would be no point in living. He did not know if Tang had gone crazy. As a prince, he could only look at the beauties he collected, but could not touch them. It must be a painful feeling, which was why Tang Hao hated himself so much. The evil nether dragon growled and came out of the pool to him. Chu Li channeled all the inner energy of the dragon taming technique into its body and experienced its enjoyment and comfort. Thanks to its help earlier, he would not have escaped Tang Hao Qian's pursuit. This time, the evil nether dragon saved his life again. The life and death scripture extracted spiritual energy from beyond the heavens and quickly transformed it into the inner energy of the dragon taming technique. The inner energy of the dragon taming technique continuously drilled into the evil nether dragon's body. The only thing he could repay the evil nether dragon was the inner energy of the dragon taming technique to strengthen it. If it could really turn into a golden dragon, then he would gain a lot. He could enter the Grandmaster's boundary and capture Grandmasters or even enlightened masters. How carefree and unrestrained would that be? The life and death scripture absorbed the spiritual chi from the heavens beyond the heavens endlessly, and the art of dragon control did not stop circulating either. His powerful soul energy ensured that he could cultivate for a long time, and he cultivated for a day and a night in one go. The evil nether dragon growled. Chu Li felt a trace of dragon energy appear and absorbed it. Immediately, he reached the third level, and the dragon taming technique rose to the third level. The third level of the dragon taming technique became purer and more comfortable after being channeled into its body. The evil nether dragon lazily fell asleep. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. It was already nighttime. The sky was filled with stars, and a crescent moon hung in the middle. He thought for a moment and suddenly sensed something. He immediately flew up and directly drilled out of the Valley of 10 Extremes, standing on the peak of the mountain. Under the starry sky, the peak of the mountain was exceptionally clear. The night breeze was gentle, and the surrounding forests and mountains were all bathed in the moonlight. It was hazy and mysterious, quiet and peaceful. A fierce battle was taking place in the backyard of the Rin public house. Lu Yurong and her 9 handmaidens formed a battle formation and were surrounded and attacked by 10 men in black. The back garden was brightly lit as if it was daytime. These men in black had their faces covered and were dressed in black. Their martial arts skills were tyrannical, and they were grandmasters. Although they were not as good as the grandmasters sent by the Fu dynasty to kill him, they were still rare masters in the Great Ji dynasty. Lu Yurong's face was covered with a white veil, revealing a serious look in her eyes. These 10 masters were weaker than Lu Yurong and the 9 servants. They were constantly being suppressed. If it wasn't for Lu Yurong, who was controlling the formation, suppressing her strength and not going all out, the 10 men in black would have been dead by now. Lu Yurong clearly had the upper hand, but she did not go all out. Instead, her expression was solemn. She suddenly shouted, "If you don't retreat now, don't blame me for being merciless." The 10 men in black sneered and suddenly sped up their attacks, activating their secret technique. The pressure on Lu Yurong and the others increased abruptly. The 9 maids had to use all their strength to maintain the formation. The power of these 10 men's secret technique was shocking. The eyes that were exposed from the black veil were bloodshot. Their gaze was like lightning, like the eyes of a beast. Lu Yurong scoffed. "If that's the case, then die." Her hands gradually became transparent. The original blood color disappeared, and her palms turned into a pair of white jade palms. The 9 maids did the same. Suddenly, it was as if 10 white jade beauties were waving their palms. The surrounding cold air was as if winter was coming. Other than Lu Yurong, the other 9 maids all used their secret technique. Bang, 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 bang. 4 men in black were sent flying by Lu Yurong. The 9 maids immediately sighed in relief. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared behind Lu Yurong and slapped her palm down. It was as fast as lightning, and no one could react. Although Lu Yurong had been vigilant, she still could not avoid it. Bang! She flew straight and hit the pillar of the pagoda. The pagoda shook as if it was collapsing. The power of this attack was obvious. Lu Yurong vomited blood and fell in the pagoda. No one knew if she was dead or alive. The man in black floated into the pagoda like a ghost and stood beside Lu Yurong. He looked down at her and let out a long sigh. Once again, he raised his right palm and slapped it down lightly. Bang! Chu Li suddenly appeared and extended his palm to meet the attack. It was like a thunderclap. The white gauze curtains in the pagoda fluttered as if a strong wind was blowing. Chu Li did not care about him anymore. He bent down and reached his hand to Lu Yurong's back. A gurgling spiritual energy seeped into her and healed her internal organs. She was already seriously injured and almost dead. The man in black's attack was overbearing and powerful. The man in black stared at Chu Li, motionless as if he was stunned. After a while, his body relaxed. His originally sealed body returned to normal. His heart was in turmoil as he stared at Chu Li in shock. He never thought that Chu Li's cultivation level was so high. Chu Li turned his back to him and said, "I don't want to know who you are. If you want to live, get out of here." He pressed his palms on Lu Yurong's back and controlled a steady stream of spiritual energy to heal her body. He then remembered that this was not Ten Despair Valley, where spirit pills could be used. He helped Lu Yurong up and pulled her into his arms. He took out a jade bottle and stuffed a spirit blessing pill into it. The man in black's eyes flickered. He looked at Chu Li and then at Lu Yurong. Chu Li turned his head and looked at him impatiently. Are you going to stay? Get out. This shout was mixed with a strong inner energy and the Buddhist lion's roar. Its power was shocking. The man in black's eyes were dazed for a moment. He suddenly felt fear and turned to leave. The other men in black quickly jumped out of the battle and helped their fallen comrades up. They left in a hurry and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The 9 maids sighed in relief. Their faces were pale. Although the secret skill had stopped, they were still unusually weak. Son-in-law. They closed fists saluted. They had followed Lu Yurong to Goddess Attraction Mountain. They only came back this time. They did not know that Lu Yurong and Chu Li were just faking their marriage. They thought that he was the real son-in-law. Chu Li appeared in time to save Lu Yurong, and they were very grateful. Chu Li waved his hand. Lu Yurong slowly woke up. Her eyes lit up when she saw Chu Li. Then she smiled and said, "You're here, my lady. It's fortunate that the son-in-law appeared and saved you. If not," a pretty maid, Xiao Wan, said hatefully, "these people deserve to die. We shouldn't have let them go." She looked at Chu Li as she spoke. Seeing that the lady was so heavily injured, and yet she let the murderers go, she felt indignant. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Lu Yurong sighed. "Let them go. My lady, they came to kill us. Why did you show mercy?" Xiao Wan said angrily. "You showed mercy, but they didn't. If it wasn't for the son-in-law, they would have hit you again and killed you." "Yes, I know." Lu Yurong nodded lightly. Chapter 3367. Chu Li waved his hand. "You guys go out first. I need to talk to Yurong." "Yes." Xiao Wan and the other ladies curtsied and floated out, disappearing in the blink of an eye. There were only the 2 of them in the huge backyard. Yurong gently pushed him away. Chu Li let go and shook his head. That palm was really vicious. It went for your heart meridian with the intention of taking your life. Yurong was silent. She stared into the distance. Her expression was gloomy and lost. Chu Li did not say much and just sat aside. After a while, Yurong sighed. "I knew this day would come, but I didn't think it would happen so soon." Chu Li said, "It's more decisive to act early." "What's the point?" Yurong shook her head. "They should know that I won't do anything unfavorable." "That's hard to say." Chu Li smiled. "The human heart is unpredictable. They trust themselves more. Plus, they've already offended you. You have a grudge against them. Even if you don't do it now, as the grudge ferments and someone provokes you, it's easy to backfire." "That's true." Yurong nodded. Chu Li smiled. "I'm one of the reasons too." "Sigh." Yurong sighed. "I knew this would happen and clear my mind. But when it really happened, I realized that it's not that easy to accept. Emotions are as thin as paper." Chu Li said, "The world is like this. The influence of power on human nature is too strong. No one dares to believe it." Yurong turned to look at him. "If it were you, would you do the same?" Chu Li pondered and shook his head. "I don't know. I've never encountered such a situation." Yurong rolled her eyes at him. "Men value power too much." Chu Li nodded. Yurong sighed. "Fine, if that's the case. Then let the past go with the wind. We can completely let it go." Chu Li smiled. "Putting down the butcher's knife is a sign of wisdom. Yurong, you have the root of wisdom." "I won't become a monk," Yurong scoffed. Chu Li said, "You're going to let him go? What else?" Yurong said, "You wouldn't dare to kill him, right?" Chu Li nodded slowly. Lu Yurong said, "You can weigh the pros and cons and not be swayed by emotions. You're no different from him." Chu Li could not help but laugh. "That's true. The impact of killing him will be too great. The 2 public houses will be affected, and the public houses will be finished. However, you should also give up on him." "I've given up." Lu Yurong nodded lightly. "I've given up on everyone. You don't want to help Suen?" Chu Li smiled. Suan is kind-hearted and has an outstanding Buddhist nature. You could trust him. He would never do such a thing. Forget it. Lu Yurong sighed. I'm sick of these things. I want some peace and quiet. Forget it then. Chu Li did not force him. He smiled and said, then go to Goddess Attraction Mountain and cultivate well. If your martial arts are strong enough, he won't dare to act recklessly. I'm just afraid that he won't let the House of High Dukes go. Lu Yurong frowned. Chu Li pondered for a moment. What do you want? How about giving him a warning? Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li shook his head. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes. Chu Li said, a warning is useless. Instead, it will make him more confident. I have a way to protect the public houses. Say it, Lu Yurong said. Chu Li smiled. Let Master Xiao Taiying go to the imperial residence of King and Big Brother. Lu Yurong was stunned. She scoffed. Let others know that the public houses have sided with Suan. You still want me to help Suan? Chu Li said, there is no retreat. You should know this. Openly supporting Suan will make him worry. Otherwise, he will secretly eliminate the masters of the public houses one by one. Lu Yurong frowned and did not say a word. She was thinking about the pros and cons of this plan. The cons were naturally high risk. If Suan could not become the emperor in the future, he would definitely be punished. Also, changing sides would not be good for the public house's reputation. However, when she thought about the grievances she suffered before, she believed that the other public houses would understand. Although the public houses were loyal to the great Ji dynasty, they should not be sacrificed like this. Changing sides out of anger was not considered betrayal. Moreover, Suan was the imperial grandson of the Lung family. More importantly, the crown prince had been decided. If there were no major changes, the throne would be stable. Suan would not have a chance to become the emperor. Once the crown prince became the emperor, Suan would not be able to protect the public houses. No matter how she thought about it, the cons outweighed the pros. Siding with Suan was a bad move. There was only one advantage to this plan. They would be put in an important position by Suan. If he really became the emperor in the future, the Rin public houses would be the biggest contributor. Of course, they would still be ranked behind the Yi public houses. More importantly, Suan had Chu Li's support. Lu Yurong did not have confidence in Suan, but she had confidence in Chu Li. He could always make the impossible possible and create miracles. Chu Li saw that her eyes were flickering. He smiled. How is it? All right. Lu Yurong nodded slowly. She stared at him. Then I will help you this once. Chu Li smiled. With your help, there was originally a 10% chance. Now, there is 20%. Lu Yurong scoffed. It seems that you're not confident either. Things have always been difficult, but it is precisely because it is difficult that the gains are greater. Don't forget Suan's identity. He is a Buddhist. Once he inherits the throne, he will be far above the crown prince among the enlightened masters. Lu Yurong nodded. She had thought of this before, which was why she agreed. After this incident, Lung Wufeng must hate this feeling of helplessness even more. As an enlightened master, he could not be invincible. He was trapped by the Tempest Temple internally and Fu Dynasty's Tang Haoyan externally. He would not want his descendants to suffer the same fate. Initially, he could only choose King Jing. Now that he had Suan, if he was good enough, he might choose Suan. Once Suan revealed his intention to fight for the throne, there was still a chance. Chu Li said, once Master Xiao Taiying enters King An's imperial residence, we will meet the crown prince. All right. Lu Yurong smiled. The crown prince's residence was magnificent and majestic under the setting sun. An angry roar came from the crown prince's residence. Why are you telling me such a trivial matter? Get lost. Get lost. A middle-aged man came out of the study in a sorry state. He straightened his clothes outside the door and looked inside helplessly. He sighed and shook his head. Light footsteps were heard. The original consort Jing, who was now the crown princess, walked in. Her gown shimmered under the setting sun. She was followed by two maids. When a middle-aged man saw the crown princess, he quickly closed fist saluted. What happened, Mr. Chu? Why is His Highness so angry? The crown princess asked gently. Sigh. I heard that the heir to the High Duke of Rin Public House, Lu Yulo, went to King An's imperial residence this afternoon and hasn't come out since. Chu Lu shook his head. Oh, the crown princess frowned. Yulo went to King An's imperial residence? Yes, Chu Lu whispered. This is no small matter. The crown princess smiled. It's not a big deal. The head chief of King An's imperial residence is Yulo's brother-in-law now. It's fine to visit him. Mr. Chu, you've been wronged. Chapter 3368. The crown princess, Lu Xiaomei, stood outside the study and did not move. After a while, the crown prince's voice was heard. Why are you standing outside? Come in. Lu Xiaomei entered the study and saw the crown prince pacing around with his hands behind his back. His face was full of annoyance and anger. She approached the crown prince and asked softly, Your Highness, are you worried about the Jade Tower? That bastard. The crown prince stopped and said hatefully, Ungrateful son of a B****. Lu Xiaomei sighed. Ever since he became the crown prince, his temperament had changed. His temper was worse than before, and he would scold people easily. The crown prince was a different person now. Could it be that power could change a person so quickly? The crown prince turned to look at her. Are you here to plead for him? Your Highness, please calm down. Lu Xiaomei handed him the tea on the table and said softly, Why is he going to the imperial residence of King An? Although the emperor has wronged Yurong, it shouldn't be this extreme, right? She felt that the Rin public house's reaction was too extreme. This was not Yurong's style of doing things. After all, she had a good relationship with the Rin public house. They were related by blood. She would not easily betray the crown prince. Moreover, the crown prince's throne was stable. No matter how angry Yurong was, she would not harm the Rin public house. There might be some misunderstanding. It was fine as long as it was resolved. There was no need to be so angry. Seeing the crown prince being so agitated, was there something he was hiding from her? Logically, the crown prince knew Yurong very well and knew she would not act recklessly. The crown prince's eyes flashed and scoffed. Yurong might be angry at me for not speaking in front of the emperor. Lu Xiaomei said softly, Yurong is a sensible person. She should know that your highness's words are useless. What's sensible? The crown prince sneered and sat back on the armchair. Lu Xiaomei frowned. Is there something your highness is hiding from me? She still trusted Yurong because they grew up together. She knew Yurong's personality. Although she was smart, she was also loyal. She would not betray anyone easily. This matter would not make her betray anyone. The crown prince avoided her gaze and shook his head. I have nothing to hide. Your Highness. Lu Xiaomei frowned. You and your wife are one. Do you want to hide something from me? The crown prince shook his head and said, Anyway, if she leaves us this time, do you think I can bear it? Why is it? Lu Xiaomei said, Is it because your highness didn't plead with the emperor? Or does she hate your majesty, so she wants to throw the royal court into chaos? Yes. Right. The crown prince hurriedly nodded and said, She must have this idea. She wants the imperial court to be in a mess as revenge against father. Sigh. Lu Xiaomei sighed. If I were to encounter something like this, I would be disheartened as well. I would be disappointed in the Ji dynasty and the emperor. Shoo. The crown prince hurriedly put a finger in front of his lips and glared at her. What nonsense are you talking about? Lu Xiaomei gently shook her head and said, I've always been very sad. The emperor is making things difficult for a woman. It's really disappointing. Shut up. The crown prince's expression changed. He looked left and right and said in a bad mood, Do you think imperial father can't hear you? So what if his majesty hears it? Lu Xiaomei snorted. If he can do it, can't other people say it? As Yurong's aunt, can't I say something fair? You. The crown prince helplessly sighed. Do you think imperial father doesn't feel aggrieved? Imperial father feels aggrieved more than anyone else, but what can we do? It's the Fu dynasty that we can't defeat. Even so, we can't sacrifice a woman, Lu Xiaomei said. The crown prince said, Women aside, Even I have to sacrifice myself when it's time. Everything is for the Ji dynasty. Lu Xiaomei shook her head and did not say anything else. She sighed and said, I'll persuade Yurong. Don't persuade her. They've already done it. What's the point of persuading them? It's not like you don't know what kind of person she is. Once she takes action, no one can persuade her. The crown prince said in a bad mood. Sigh. Lu Xiaomei faintly sighed. Could it be that she wants to go against you? That's for sure. The crown prince sneered. Looks like Su is starting to get restless. Your Highness, he's the emperor's grandson. Lu Xiaomei advised. There's no need to lower yourself to his level. You'll only mess things up. Don't underestimate this brat. The crown prince sneered and shook his head. If he really wants the throne, he's no less of a threat than King Ping. Lu Xiaomei frowned. Is it because of Yurong? Yurong is smarter than a monkey. Will she fight a battle she's not confident in? The crown prince's face darkened. He scoffed. Since she dares to seek refuge in the imperial residence of King In, it means that the imperial residence of King and has enough confidence. I'll persuade Yurong. Lu Xiaomei said. I'll invite Yurong to the imperial residence. When the time comes, you'll apologize to her personally, and this matter will be over. Who else is more reassuring than her? The crown prince slowly nodded. A bright moon hung high in the sky. Its clear light shone all over the fairy's capital. The crown prince's residence was also bathed in its clear light. The backyard was brightly lit, but it was very quiet. There was a small pagoda in the middle of a flower bed. Yurong, Lu Xiaomei, and the crown prince sat in the pagoda. There were no maids or protectors. Lu Xiaomei personally poured tea and wine. Yurong, you're quite bold to come alone. The crown prince sat in the main seat and looked at Yurong casually. Yurong wore a white tunic and a white veil covered her face. Only her bright eyes could be seen. She said lightly, Why wouldn't I dare? The fairy's capital is peaceful. Who would dare to assassinate me on the streets? Aunt, you don't have to be so busy. I'll leave after saying a few words. Lu Xiaomei said angrily, Why are you leaving? You're treating me like an outsider. Yurong smiled faintly and glanced at the crown prince. Looks like Uncle didn't tell you what happened. The crown prince quickly said, Yurong, are you going to seek refuge with Suan? Yurong nodded. If I don't seek refuge with someone else, I'm afraid I'll die a horrible death. I have no other choice. Yurong, what do you mean? Lu Xiaomei frowned. She looked at the crown prince hesitantly. The crown prince scoffed. Don't try to drive a wedge between me and your aunt. You really are going to betray me. Yurong laughed softly. I didn't expect Uncle to be so shameless. Don't you know why I betrayed you? What do I know? The crown prince said coldly. I just wanted to test you. I was right. I really have to thank Uncle for being merciful. Yurong laughed coldly. Test me? To see if I'll die or not. Yurong, Lu Xiaomei frowned. Your uncle is going to kill you. Ask Uncle. Yurong stared coldly at the crown prince. Lu Xiaomei looked at the crown prince with a dark face. The crown prince coughed. I just wanted to test her. I didn't expect her to seek refuge with someone else. Yurong scoffed. If it wasn't for Chu Li coming in time to scare you away, I'd be dead by now. Chapter 3369. The crown prince looked at her and shook his head. He had nothing to say, knowing that he could not fool her. He got married at the age of 18, and it had been 30 years since then. She was the one who understood him the most. He could hide his words from others, but not from her. Lu Yurong sighed. Anne, I didn't even cry. Why are you crying? What a poor girl. Lu Xiaomei took out a handkerchief from her sleeve and wiped her eyes. She sighed. I didn't expect to be betrayed by the person I trusted the most. He wanted to kill me. He must be furious. Lu Yurong said, Aunt, you're wrong. I knew Uncle would do this. I just didn't think it would be so soon. I thought it would be a while later. Yurong. Lu Xiaomei glared at her. You always think so badly of people. Lu Yurong snorted softly and said, Am I right this time? Aunt, don't meddle in these things. It's better to keep an eye on Lung Feng. I've already kicked him out of the public house and let him come back. Yurong, don't make things difficult for Feng Er. Lu Xiaomei quickly said. Lu Yurong said, "Don't worry. I'm not uncle. I'm not that cruel. I'm not that heartless to turn my back on you." "Shut up." The crown prince slammed the table and shouted, "You think you're in the right? You betrayed me, and you're still so unscrupulous. You're shameless." Lu Yurong laughed coldly and said, "That's right. I've already betrayed you. Let me ask you, what would your subordinates think? Who would still believe you? Who would still be loyal and not be afraid of becoming the next me? Don't try to drive a wedge between us. I won't fall for it." The crown prince curled his lips in disdain. "As long as they want wealth, they'll have to work hard for me. I won their loyalty not because of friendship, but because of my status. All right, when your status is taken away, I'd like to see who else will be by your side." Lu Yurong sneered. "I don't think that day is too far away. Uncle, you better be prepared." "Just you and that kid Suin?" The crown prince shook his head in disdain. "You're useless. No matter how capable you are, he's just a grandson, not a prince. He has no right to fight for the throne." "Not necessarily." Lu Yurong scoffed. "Don't forget about Chu Li." "Chu Li?" The crown prince gritted his teeth. If it were not for Chu Li, he would have gotten rid of Lu Yurong and shifted the blame to Tang Yi without anyone knowing. The Ren public house would only hate the Fu dynasty and serve him. Without Lu Yurong, he could use the Ren public house without worry. Chu Li is a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. If he becomes an enlightened master in the future, Suin won't be so powerless against the Fu dynasty anymore. He won't be as sullen as the emperor. I believe the emperor will consider this carefully. Impossible. The crown prince's face changed, and his heart sank. Lu Yurong said, "The emperor's heart is hard to fathom. Who knows if it's possible? It's too naive to expect the emperor to pass the throne to you just because you're the crown prince. I'm sure you know how ruthless the emperor can be." The crown prince fell silent. Of course, he knew that accompanying the emperor was like accompanying a tiger. It was the same even for the emperor's son. The emperor had always placed the Lung family's empire above all else. He had cast aside his personal feelings. Otherwise, he would not have abandoned Lu Yurong so easily. Lu Xiaomei sighed. "Yurong, since you know that the emperor's heart is hard to fathom, why bother getting involved in this mess?" Lu Yurong glanced at the crown prince and smiled coldly. "If I don't help Suin, uncle-in-law will kill me. If I help Suin, uncle-in-law won't dare to act recklessly. I'm only trying to save my own life. I have no other choice." "Excuses?" The crown prince smiled coldly. "You're hiding in Goddess Attraction Mountain. How can I go there?" Lu Yurong said, "Am I supposed to hide in Goddess Attraction Mountain for the rest of my life? Besides, why should I hide in Goddess Attraction Mountain instead of walking openly in the Great Ji Dynasty? Your Highness, let's see who's better. Let's see who's the emperor, you or Suin." "Fine, fine." The crown prince gritted his teeth. "Do you think Suin will win for sure?" Lu Yurong said lightly. "Who knows what will happen in the future? If Suin fails, he can return to the Titanium Temple unscathed. What about you?" The crown prince smiled coldly. "You'll still be abandoned. That's still better than being killed by you now." Lu Yurong said, "How about this? I won't kill you." The crown prince said in a low voice, "Leave the imperial residence of King," and Lu Yurong smiled disdainfully. She raised the wine cup, looked at the wine in it, and slowly put it down. "What are you doing? Are you afraid that I'll poison it?" The crown prince asked. Lu Yurong scoffed. "Try drinking this." She pushed the wine cup over in annoyance. The crown prince flicked his finger, and the white jade cup flew out, disappearing into the bushes. Lu Yurong smiled coldly, but did not say anything. Lu Xiaomei frowned and glared at the crown prince. She did not expect him to use her subordinates to poison her. Lu Yurong did not have her guard up against her. If she accidentally drank it, it would really poison her to death. Lu Yurong said, "Your Highness, it's best that you don't use such tricks in the future, or else you'll be asking for trouble." "Are you threatening me?" The crown prince smiled coldly. "You're already working for the imperial residence of King Yin." "That's right." Lu Yurong scoffed. "Your Highness, I know everything about you. Don't force me to use those tricks." "Fine, fine." The crown prince gritted his teeth and nodded hard. I've really fed an ingrate. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. You couldn't kill me in one hit, Lu Yurong said coldly. Actually, you'd already killed me at that time. I'm not the Lu Yurong from before. Your Highness, be careful. Lu Yurong, you can't escape from me. The crown prince scoffed. Don't think that everything will be fine just because you have Chuli. Don't forget that there's still the Rin public house. That depends on your Highness's tricks. Lu Yurong smiled faintly. It's so lively. Chuli appeared at the bottom of the pagoda stairs. He walked into the pagoda and closed fists saluted with a smile. Your Highness, Princess, please forgive me for visiting without notice. The crown prince squinted his eyes and stared coldly at Chuli. The crown prince's imperial residence had a formation. Other than the main entrance, no one could enter. Could it be that he entered from the main entrance? More importantly, he had snuck in without anyone noticing. What was worse was that he did not even sense his presence. If he closed his eyes, there would be no one in front of him. This Chuli had truly reached the realm of the integration of heaven and man. He was too much a threat to him. Chuli looked at Lu Yurong and sat beside her with a smile. Have you caught up? Princess, Lu Yurong came here today because of you. As for your Highness, there's really nothing to say about your enemy who wants to kill you. Head Chief Chu, Lu Xiaomei sighed. I'm relieved that Lu Yurong can follow you. Chuli smiled. Don't worry, Princess. We'll take our leave first. Then I won't send you off, Lu Xiaomei smiled. Chuli looked at Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong nodded. He grabbed Lu Yurong's slender waist, and the two disappeared in a flash. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.